You're listening to Find the Good News, Episode 19, The Pants Fee, featuring Danny Allain. This episode of Find the Good News is sponsored by Parker Brand Creative Services, a branding agency that thinks sideways, pushes forward, and gets your brand up. Check out our work at parkerbrandup.com. Would you like to help make sure I'm asking my guests the really good questions? Just visit findthegood.news and click the questions tab. I'll see if I can get your question dropped in the fishbowl. Each episode, my guests will dive deep, select 3 random questions, and if yours is selected, I'll ask it on the show. That's findthegood.news. What is good news? I've asked that question a lot since I started this show. What I've discovered is that good news wears an infinite number of masks, and on this episode of Find the Good News, I learned that one of its secret identities is Danny Allain. There was something different about this strange visitor from another city, with artistic abilities far beyond those of mortal men. What was so different about this conversation with Danny? What was his good news? Listen for just a bit, and I think you'll soon learn what I did. And it's that Danny is a fast friend. I had some shared history with him, so we skipped much of the warm-up found with previous good newsies. We dive right into the common ground we share. Danny is a wildly artistic talent, and we definitely worked through the sketch, inks, and colors of his life. But it's the places in between that really made our conversation a lot of fun. He even wore pants to the show, and he didn't charge me his mandatory pants fee. I felt pretty special, to be honest. So what's the good news in this episode? The news is that people like Danny Allain are in the world, and you can meet them, even buy their art, or just hang out with them, learn something from them, or not. You'll laugh, you'll smile, you might even wonder what the heck is wrong with us after listening to this episode, and that's okay, because I think you'll feel a little brighter after laughing and smiling with us.
Wake up, it's morning. You're dreaming up a story, I can hear the way it's going, 'cause you're laughing in your sleep, on the path to your deliverance, and a holy wall of light pouring through your window.
Old news, bad news, fake news. Sometimes you just want to shut it all down and get no news at all. With Find the Good News, I aim to change that by focusing on good people doing good work. I visit with artists, educators, civic and spiritual leaders, musicians, business owners, students, volunteers, and everyday citizens who are using their creativity, resources, and talents to bring hope and happiness to their corner of the world. In each episode, I dig into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. We have street-level conversations about relatable things going on in their lives. Discover the critical life experiences that shape them, the perspectives that drive them, and the fundamental beliefs that are anchoring them to a path of goodness. There's a lot of news in the world. My name is Oran Parker, and I'm going to find the good.
And I love you just as well.
Most of these episodes have been with people that I've really never met.
Yeah.
I mean, a few I've met and I've had conversations with, but I don't really know them,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Hometown represent.
That's right, dude. I know.
You
And then
grew up in DeQuincy?
well, in a weird, I guess kind of. My dad's first video store was in
Yeah.
DeQuincy. And so I was in the
Bose Video.
Bose Videos, 6th grade when he opened that.
That was my first art gallery I ever went to.
At Bose Videos?
All the awesome artwork, like all the movie covers.
Yeah.
everywhere. I would just walk through and look
You
at
know,
them
that's
all.
a good way to put that, bro.
Yeah, I mean, because back then it was all like hand painted.
Yeah.
You know, like what?
Oh, dude, yeah, movie
Struzens.
posters were awesome. I think that's coming back, in my opinion.
Yeah, you see a lot of people trying to be like Drew Struzan,
Yeah.
which is good, but
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh,
just
dude,
give
how
it
they're
up.
gonna do that?
Yeah, I know.
In fact, my number one movie hadn't changed yet is Back to the Future, and I was at the mall a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months back, and they had this guy had a little booth that had old movie posters, and they had that Drew Struzan OG Back to the Future poster.
Dude, that's great. I'm sure you've seen I can't remember what it's called. Drawing with Struzan or something. It's got
that documentary.
Dude, I was like, holy, that's a drawing or a painting? I was like, I didn't even know that. I thought
You
that
know
was just
what?
pictures.
I know. I remember thinking the same thing. His style kind of got it sort of changed to where you could start to see more of the hatch lines and stuff. I noticed as they got.
And then it was like, okay, sure. You don't think something can be different, like holding a pencil? There's only one way to hold a pencil and draw, and then the way he's like sharpening his pencil I was like, that blew my mind. That's when I was like, okay, there's always something to learn. You know,
it's cool. I didn't even think we'd ever talk about Drew Struzan on this show, and it's funny because I hadn't thought about him in so long. But I remember it's funny. God, man, it's exactly what you said. As a kid interested in art, my dad was like, get those movies straight. So we'd spend hours in front of movie boxes putting the same spacing between them.
And even the ones that weren't painted or drawn, it was still like, photo, so it was your little movie gallery or your little art gallery.
Well, and your eyes, after you do that for years and years, your eyes are tuned into what those look like. I mean, and where they're going to be. And I remember, I guess like any art, you start to go, I like that. And you don't know why. And I'd start to see Drew, in there. And I always thought it was cool that his name was Drew and it was a drawing.
Yeah, exactly. He is kind of like the Beatles to me. It's like, I know the Beatles songs and I hear them, but you can hear their music in everything. You know what I mean? And like Drew, he's super influenced a lot of people. And you're like, oh, well, that's why I like it, because they like Drew.
Did you watch that documentary about it?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Dude, that was so good.
There's another one with Frazetta, and it's super cool.
I haven't watched that.
Oh, that was really cool.
No, I need to watch that.
But yeah, I watched that one. I was like, okay, yeah, he's just a really good artist. And then you're like, no, he's figured a lot of stuff out.
Dude, and just the hard knocks, man, of being those guys. I mean, I think it's when you're a kid, like we all were, and you're looking at them. It's like, I used to say that about George Perez.
Yeah, except for his shirts.
I know. I didn't even know what that was all about. I remember
his wife made him for him.
I think so. And I went and I met him for the first time. I guess I was probably maybe 18 or 19. And I was out of the whole reason I went to that comic book show was to meet George Perez. That's what I wanted to do, because I was like, okay, my whole life, that's who I've just been keyed in on. And I remember the feeling I got when I met him, because I've told people this many times. I said, before I met George Perez and watched him draw, this is pre-internet. You couldn't just go watch people draw anytime you wanted. All I'd ever seen was his finished work in the pages of the comic books. That is it. So to go into that show and watch him sketch, and then to see the man, the human being,
actually doing it,
I'd never even seen him. So it was like, I don't know. I told somebody, I said it was like before that day, comic books in my head, I knew that people made them, but they sort of just
humanized
appeared. Humanized it. It was my first peek at the Wizard of Oz, behind the curtain.
Right. Ignore the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, and he was just so freaking nice, man. And I think in a way, it might have, and I hate to say it like this, like he might have messed me up, because I then assumed everybody's going to be like this. At the same show, I met other artists that were just complete buttholes.
Then you meet Neil Adams, you're like, oh, okay, never mind.
Oh, the one that I met, and that's terrible because I don't know the man, but it was at the same show, and it was Mark Bagley.
Oh, yeah.
And and I liked his art, and so I had just come off of this high from meeting George Perez, and as a kid I was like, oh, this is how it is, man. These guys are super cool. They're all like super open and talking about their well, what I failed to realize is, and now as an older, now turning into an old man, and I'm starting to realize, is like the older guy.
You just got lucky with George.
Yes, George is at the point in his career where he's past superstar phase,
right?
He's like, with it. Yeah, he's done with that. So he's in a stage of, he's like, I'm George Perez, man. I can do whatever I want. I'm always going to be George Perez. I've had my history. So maybe it made him a little more willing to share. I get to Bagley's table, and I didn't even stay in the line. There were some people in front showing them their
portfolios.
Art.
Yeah,
and dude,
I had the same thing with Bart Sears.
Really,
I waited for Bart Sears every year, because that's the only time you could ever get any kind of critique on a portfolio, is you go to the Wizard World show or whatever in New Orleans. I think it was a big Easy Con back then or something.
Yeah, maybe so.
But every year you'd go, and then first year they'd be like, okay, do you have any unlined paper? They'd be like, okay, good tip. And then the next year you come back with, and they're like, "Have you ever seen what a person looks like?" You're like, "Okay, let's work on that."
Oh my gosh.
So with it, I saw Bart Sears. And everyone's always told me he's really nice, even now. But he might have had a bad day or something, because the guy in front of me showed him his portfolio, and I think he might have started crying. And I was just like, "I'm cool," and just walked out of the line, because I was like, I know my stuff's terrible. I don't need you to tell me.
Yeah, you knew at that point. You're like, oh, okay. Right. You know, it's funny because it's exactly, and you know, I guess it's kind of relevant to, I guess, the difference between being helpful with your skill set,
right,
and just being kind. Because I think about Bagley and I go, well, he could have been kind. And now there are people out there that would say, well, nobody ever learns anything by being nice. You got to be hard. And I go, I don't know if I agree with that, because at George's table, he was also looking at a guy's portfolio, and I'll never forget it. I can still see the guy's art. And it was a picture of this guy. It was like the villain, and this farmer was protecting his family from the villain, and he had shoved a pitchfork through his body, and it was a big splash page, and you could tell this kid had like
really going for it.
Inked. It was really good. And so George goes, this is really good. Your technical skill's good, but you know, you want to be careful here. He said, you see how far the prongs of the pitchfork extend out of his back? He said, now you have to remember that there's bone and there's a spine there and there's all this tissue. He said, so realistically, this wouldn't have went that far through. And he said, in the moon, he said, now a lot of people are going to do this. He said, but you notice your clouds are going behind the moon. He said, it looks cool, but it's a small little detail. And it was like totally constructive.
Right, yeah.
And that kid was like, oh man, God, you know, thank you so much. And I was like, that's awesome.
Instead
so I guess
of going home and burning his pencils, he's going to go home and fix it, you know?
Yeah, it's like there's some of these artists out there.
Because there's teaching and then there's telling, you know, and some of them are like, they don't even want to tell you, you know, but it's hard to even get to talk to them, you know, those people anymore. They just sign their stuff and that's it.
You know, that's true. Before we were rolling, we were talking about both of us listening to podcasts. I think that's one of the things I like about podcasts is, especially people from who have started podcasts that were maybe on a show I liked or a comedian I like or something. I find that they're very, certain ones anyway, they're very gracious towards their fans, and they talk about their fans like their fans really are why they're doing it. And you just get this attitude of gratitude. Man, there we go. I didn't mean to do that. Attitude of gratitude. But no, they do. They have this attitude or disposition towards gratitude, and it just seems like it drips out. And I go, you know, I like that.
Well, and it's genuine when people do it like that. That's like me and Morgan were talking on the way up here. Like if someone's kind of a jerk, but they're a genuine jerk, like I'll hang around them because that's who they are, you know? Right.
You know who they are. Right. You know what you're getting.
And with those people that are, you know, that gracious, you know, they seem genuine. You're like, yeah, that's a real person.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, man.
Because so many fake people out here today, you never know. But when you can hear it, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that's a real person. Like,
yeah. So so this is about you, man. This is for people to meet you.
Oh, what's up, guys?
And a lot of people already know you, man. You're out and about, dude.
Sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm either out and about all over the place or at home.
But you know what, man? You're hustling, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, I look around, I look at what you're doing. I'm like, this guy's hustling. I mean, you've done a lot of different stuff. Right?
Yeah, I've thrown a lot of darts at dartboard, see what would stick.
Yeah, well, what does that feel? Okay, well, that's a good place to start. Where do you feel like you're at right now with your art?
Getting there.
Yeah, getting there.
I think one day we'll be where I want to be. I'm trying a bunch of stuff. Like I like doing comic books.
Yeah.
It just takes so long.
Yeah.
And then you got to find a way to make money with it. And
that's the hard part right there.
And that you like to do. You know, because like I did comic books for a while, and it was like 1,000 drawings in this one issue, and it's like you're lucky if you can sell for $5, but you could sell a print of one picture for like $10.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to do single image prints and stuff like that, but I still like to do it for myself. But like I did one for Ruby, I still hadn't finished it.
Yeah,
you know, I think I'm gonna do because it's like the big battle at the end. So I think I'm going to do the whole, like, Bilbo thing where he gets knocked out and wakes up and it's over so I don't have to draw it all out.
Yeah, I got you. You know, it's funny, too, because you say that because, before we were rolling and visiting, I had gotten off of social media for a couple of years. And so when I started tiptoeing back in and going and adding people I know back into that, I guess, environment,
Right, yeah.
you know, and seeing those same faces, a lot had changed. And so your art had changed, in my opinion. I mean, as an outsider looking in, I was like, oh, his art there's something different. And
Yeah,
I don't know how to put my finger on it.
I do a lot of different mediums, and I feel like with each different medium, I kind of have like a different. I don't even know if I have a style. I think my kind of like illustrated comic stuff, you could look at him like, oh yeah, that looks like something Danny would draw. But like, for the most part, if it's a different medium, it looks totally different. So, which I don't know if is good or bad for an artist, you know. Which I kind of wish I had. Like, you look at somebody's stuff and you're like, oh, that's
theirs.
That's Kirby. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I got you.
But I have a lot of fun doing a lot of like oil painting, watercolor, pencil color.
Yeah.
And doing a bunch of D&D miniature stuff. That's fun. That's what I do for fun, because I get kind of burnt out on doing stuff that I have to do. Like, I do house portraits, and got my Bone series.
What do you mean house portraits? What is that?
Like, I take a picture of somebody's house.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought it's literally a portrait of their home.
Right, yeah.
Okay, I thought maybe it was like
It sounds
a
a little
house portrait
fancier
is when
than-
they come to your home and I draw. I didn't know. I was like, hey, maybe it's.
Oh, that's terrible. Well, and then I also have I waived it for you though, because we're not on air. Like, you can't see me, but I usually have a pants fee for everything I do. So if I'm gonna do a mural for somebody and they're like, well, how much? I'm like, blah 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 blah, and then there's a pants fee, because it's at least the $100 minimum for me to put pants on usually to leave the house. And some of them go to waive it, and I'm like, no, you know.
I want to talk about this pants thing.
I know, right? I'm on.
Well,
something.
because you were an educator.
Oh yeah. That was the downfall of my whole education.
And it had something to do with some pants, right?
It did.
I mean, I don't know a lot about that,
Yeah,
but I do know. I
my
remember
man
something's
capris.
going on, man.
Yeah.
With some pants, and I
I
was
like a lot of pockets. I need at least an 8-pocket minimum. I like to carry stuff.
You carry
And
stuff, dude.
it's
I hear
hot.
you.
I was outside with kids a lot, and the female teachers got to wear their capri pants.
Yeah, it's a lot
And
cooler out
it
there
is,
in Louisiana
right? I know.
summer. I hear
Because
you,
what I
man.
would do is I'd roll up my pants and I look like a goober, and all the kids laugh at me. You trying to earn respect of these children, and they laughing at you because you got goober pants.
Right.
So I went to school with some cargo pants, and I thought it got.
And they were just cargo pants.
yeah. And
Oh,
it
they
said-
weren't capri pants. They were cargo pants.
No, but I told my principal in jest, and it was in an email, so you can't really hear like tone in the email.
Sure, I know.
That's why I
yeah.
put a winky face at the end, because it was like, haha.
Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
joking, man.
Winky. And then I said, but if it helps, think of them as man capris, because like the ladies wear capri pants and it's like shorts. And I'm like, come on now.
You know what's
Discrimination.
interesting is that you're trailblazing over there, because that's really before the whole big gender equality issue has blown back up. Because it
right.
really has. I mean, it's a hot button topic
Right.
in our society right now, and that same point made today would be seen totally
yeah.
different than a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, luckily it was a few years ago, and I don't teach anymore. So if it had happened now, I might still be teaching.
Right.
Who
I mean,
knows
it'd be a
what
totally
happened.
different. It is interesting how a little bit of time shifts and where the world shifts with it, and then we can look at something and we go, "Wow, this would be so different."
And that's when you know you're old.
yeah,
Back in my day.
Golly, man. It's funny though about pants, because I talk about pants in my job too, because I don't own a lot of nice pants, and I've always
Who
said,
you gonna impress with them? You know.
well, that is something that I struggle with, and I say struggle because I'm typically underdressed for most things I go to. I go to a lot of professional meetings, but I own a lot of jeans.
Right,
And a lot of people don't wear them except on Friday, like it's a treat. And for me,
Why shouldn't every day be a treat?
well, I've just gotten to the point where I go, I don't want to go to a meeting dirty. I mean, because I'm not a dirty person anyway. But I've as the years have went by, I've gotten to the point where I've just told myself and other people, they're not hiring me for the quality of my khakis. Most of these people are only going to see me 6 times a year, because we're doing the work and communicating electronically.
And then if they only see you those few times you got dirty pants, they're gonna remember you as the dirty pants guy.
Dirty pants.
So
boy. That boy
you're
got
stuck
dirty.
in there.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing is, too, I mean, because I sort of wear a lot of hats, like you probably do, too, I might be kneeling down filming.
Metaphorical hats or actual hats?
Metaphorical hats. I also have a lot of hats.
Right,
though.
right.
But, yeah, I could be kneeling down like in a pasture filming something with a camera, or laying on my stomach even sometimes, or underneath something. All kinds of godforsaken places.
I don't have any clothes that don't have paint on them. Like, I don't. I recently bought a new pair of, there's a shirt or maybe some, it might have been underwear, I don't know, but I got paint on them somehow. And I was like, damn, that was the one piece I had that didn't have a fleck of paint on it.
Dude, happened to me just not even a month ago. I went and bought a pair of khakis to go to,
you felt proud of
thing,
them too.
And I was like, oh, I got these pants, man. I got the pants everybody's been wanting me to get.
I can fit in.
Well, the same day I got the pants everybody's wanting me to get. I went to my meeting and I was about to go home, and got a call from somebody I care about. Their vehicle was broke down.
Tire grease.
Dude, all I had to do was open the hood and lean over, take a look inside, lean back. I got the front grill all over them pants.
Now people won't love you for your pants anymore.
And now those pants are just comfy pants.
Hey, there you go. And those are probably your best pants you got.
Yeah, so I mean, literally, this is not a joke. If I have a big meeting, like a bigger one, and I don't know how you gauge that, but for me, I know when it's a bigger meeting.
Because you got to wear khakis.
Yeah, I will have to go to the store and buy a new pair of pants.
How many pockets you got in those pants?
Well, dude, I've learned that they're really just 4 pockets, but I get them deep pockets. And now I'm starting to buy them stretchy fabrics, man, so I can really stuff some stuff
just
in
like
there,
a squirrel ready for
Dude, if I emptied my pockets right now, I'm not kidding.
Oh, man.
We might have to have a pocket emptying contest.
I see, and I'm super ill-prepared now. My wallet is a survival kit. I usually have a first aid kit in this pocket with a quick clot, and my wife saw it. Like, I'm prepared, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I hear you.
Verging on really super paranoid about everything. So I'm just ready for every kind of occasion, And she was like, I can't remember what, there was some shooting or something somewhere, and we're about to go to the Renaissance Festival. That's what it was. And she was like, just be careful, it masks, we're both thinking the same thing. I'm like, don't worry, I got 2 things of quick clot. I got some gauze, and I got some medical tape. I'm like, I'll at least stop the bleeding until they get there.
Dude, you and I are a lot alike. I think people think it's funny when they realize how, paranoid or prepared, I don't know which, because it's on the fence.
Yeah, exactly.
Like my son and I were the other
Depends
day.
on which pants I'm wearing for the day, if I'm paranoid or just prepared.
Yeah, Jonah goes, we were talking about like the smog coming from the refineries, and he was like, what would happen if like those like caught on fire or blew up or something? I said, actually, it'd be pretty bad. I was like, it'll be all right though. And he's like,
depends on which way prevailing winds are.
I said, I've got, masks for the entire family. He said, what do you mean masks for the entire family? I said, I have masks at the office for everybody who works at the office. Also, there's masks at home for everybody at home. And also in the truck, there are masks for everybody. And he goes, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I'm serious. And he's like looking at me, he goes, I wonder how many people actually are riding around. And I said, well,
the ones that are going to make it.
Because I'll get that thought, like, I mean, I don't, I start thinking, basically it's like that chain of events. I go, well, okay, maybe I got some water, and maybe I've got medical supplies, but if I can't get out of here, how long is that going to last? And so I start tracing, my mind goes back and then back to the next problem. Yeah. And if I get stuck on one, I start scratching my head going, how hard is this to solve? How hard is it to, what do I really need to just get a little extra bump out of life? I don't know. Give me another day.
I'm scrambling for that 5 minutes. Yeah, that's what the whole, like when the people are worried about the zombie apocalypse, I'm like, this is perfect because I can now, like, actually prepare as much as I want to for all circumstances, but I can do it under the guise of just the zombie apocalypse. You know what I mean? So like, I'm ready. Like, bring on the culling. We need another mass disease wipe out some people.
Test your skills.
Exactly.
Gotta get to practice in. I think some of that for me might have came from just the way my dad. I mean, we're all nature and nurture, and I think some of that come from the way my dad was. And I've told this story to a bunch of people, but never on the show. And one time we were converting my dad's sulfur video store into a hurricane shelter. It was me and all my buddies, and we'd boarded it all up, and it was nothing going on, And it was because the night before the hurricane.
That's when you do it.
But so we did it, and we were all finished, and we were hanging out in the front parking lot, and Dad was hanging out there with us, which he didn't always do. And he said this to all of us, and we all were like, just like, yes, master, you wise man. He said, hey, boys, if y'all had to make a list of 5 people that you could depend on if the world goes to shit, who's on your list? And we're all, I'd put, and he said, it doesn't matter if real or fictional, you know. And so we're all sitting there having this big conversation, and we all make our list, and we think we got the best teams lined up. And he looked at us, and he's just shaking his head like, y'all, so stupid. And I mean, we're all like, what? What did we do wrong? Because we're thinking, you know, I got friggin' Arnold Schwarzenegger from Predator on my list, man.
On my list, son.
Friggin' John McClane, son. Right. You know? Yeah, it's like that kind of stuff. And he goes, I didn't hear a single one of y'all put your own name on that list.
But them 5 people gonna make it.
And then it was like we were all just standing there, and he said, if you can't write your own name on that list today, you need to turn yourself into the person who would be on that list.
Right.
And we were like, whoa. Freaking knowledge, dude. That's some good advice. Yeah. And that was how he was. It was always like, boys, y'all got tough.
He's like Cain. Like walking the world with
walk
his
the
knowledge.
earth, man. Yeah. See, there's stuff like that sticks around from Dad. Like, that's the kind of things that make me chuckle sometimes. I'm like, you know, it seems like it was a joke, but then I start to search my own brain and the way I function, and I'm like, man, some of that stuff's still kicking around, and they're like building houses and stuff, you know, making little places for my brain to stay.
I hear you, man. It's nice to have those people that do that, because then they kind of, like we were saying earlier with my dad giving me the unripe persimmon, you know, sticks with you, you know, and there's a lot of things like that stick with you. You're like, for good or worse, you know, you turn them into what you need to keep on going. Well,
yeah, speaking of that, I mean, nature and nurture, does your artistic ability just come from you, or does there some nurture in there as your family?
Mostly demonic summonings. When I was a kid, they placed me in this like weird star looking thing. I have pictures from it. But no, my dad was an artist. He still is. He draws.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know your dad was an artist.
He did portraits. He went to art school in New Orleans. And it was so cold there one night, he left a glass of water out and it froze. Hey, really? I know that. He's told me that about 50 times. Yeah, he did. Both my brothers could draw. My sister went to art school. She worked at Lamar Advertising for a while.
Your sister went to McNeese, didn't she?
Yeah, Frances. I think Danielle did too.
Your sister, she had blonde hair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like greenish, weird eyes. And same as that color as our garbage man, which is
she's really a little older than me, right? Probably 46.
She's 10 years older than me. Yeah, she's 46? Like 46 or something.
Well, okay. Gosh, so funny. When I first started going to McNeese, she was just finishing maybe McNeese.
Yeah.
And she was like at that stage in like logo design and stuff that you want to get to.
Right.
And I do remember her because I remember there was this wine and pasta
spaghetti
place.
Wine.
You know what I'm talking about?
Dude, that's super crazy.
That's a million years ago.
I know. That's an idiotic brain.
Isn't that crazy?
Whatever. Yeah, but it was like a wine glass. But
Spool of noodles. Yeah. And I was like, she doesn't know this, but I would sit there like, I guess I was coming into the studio as she would be out, and I would see her like getting her work together, and I just remember like side-eyeing that thing like, man, what is it's so freaking cool.
Yeah. And also from her, because she would spell her name F-R-A, and then the A would also be the A for Allain.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, that's really cool. I was like, but I can't do that because that's her signature. As soon as she got married, though, Frances Brown didn't work out so well. So now that's how I signed my name.
That's awesome,
D and
man.
Then the A, yeah.
How funny. So your family is all over the place creative.
Yeah, like Packy builds houses. Lad works with bones. And
is he a chiropractor?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw a commercial. And a shaman?
Yeah.
Chiropractic shaman? Well, I mean, chiropractic, I mean, as I understand it, at one time was considered like a new age treatment. It wasn't like as, you know,
and if it's definitely not hokey if Lad's in it, because he's more of the scientific route. You know
I got you. Yeah, well, that's interesting. So, like, see, my family's the opposite. No, there's not a lot of art people. I mean, Dad was he built homes, which is creative in its own right, but he was more analytical and more mathematical. My mom was always very crafty and creative, but I never really saw her do any kind of illustration or art. So I don't know where it came from, but yet all my kids, they all can draw and stuff. So it's weird. I mean, I don't know.
I think mine mostly came from, it was a cheap hobby, like, because we didn't have a whole lot growing up. So like pencil and paper, like And then my brothers had, this is probably one of the definitive moments or like, cruxes of my life. They came into possession of just a ton of comic books, like tons and tons and tons of them, like Chris Claremont, Ramita Sr., like all the good ones.
Yeah.
And so that's how I learned how to read. Like first it was like, all right, you're looking at the pictures and you can read the story because, it's sequential art, so you don't need the words. And you're like, this big green guy's real mad.
Yeah.
And then later you can learn to read and you're like, this big green guy named Hulk is real mad. So it's still the same, but you can,
you're touching on something pretty important because I've always said that. It kind of got, dude, just to digress for a second, Bill Maher's idiotic comments about Stan Lee, I was like, this guy has just zero frame of reference into what he's talking about. Because it gets into what you're talking about.
That's like me talking about like algebra, but like in a mean way.
Yeah, like you got something to say about it.
You're right. Like I don't know nothing about it, but I have an opinion. You know what I mean? But yeah,
I felt like that because it really. I have those memories. I also learned to read on two things: comics and National Geographic. Mm-hmm. In comics, the context helped me learn to read. It was like you said, there was a picture and they were doing something, and so the words associated with the picture helped you correlate. I learned to read really early. I actually have a very, very early memory, and for a long time I didn't know what it was, and then I started thinking about it, and it was when they reprinted the Spider-Man origin story, like the original, in a more modern issue. I was flipping through it and I was like, I know I've seen this before, but I started reading. I guess I'd never really read it as an adult because I'm just like, I know this story.
Yeah.
But I started reading it word for word and I went, hang on a second. Oh, I remember this. And so I'm up. My parents. Uncle Ben, no. I had my parents' bedroom. We lived in like a barn style house, and same thing. We didn't have anything, It was just a single room thing. There was a downstairs and there was an upstairs, and downstairs was a kitchen and a place to sit around, but and upstairs was a bedroom, and there was a ladder that went up through like a hole in the floor. That was how you got upstairs, and so we all slept up there. But my dad's comic boxes, these big boxes of comics, and I remember laying in my parents' bed up there and reading these words. He became a humming spider. And I was like, and as a child I was sounding out those words, and the word humming to me was like hummingbird, humming like the sound. So I didn't know, and so I remember crawling down with that book to my parents and going, what does humming mean? And they dismissed it like it's this, or it doesn't matter, whatever. And I remember nobody like answering the question, so I'd put it to bed.
Right. Like, well, that's how it is.
I'm an adult rereading that, and I'm going, I remember this. I remember trying to sound this word humming out and because I didn't know.
Well, like reading those old comic books, because like recently my mom, she's going through the purge. She's getting rid of my mom is a very organized hoarder, so it works out well. But I recently got a bunch of those comic books, and Packing Lad, hopefully they don't hear this because they think they're gone or something, but I got them. I bored and bagged every single one of those things, so I earned it. But awesome, she brought them over, and looking through them was crazy because I could read an issue and be like, oh, I remember where I was up in a tree eating a sandwich whenever I was reading this issue. Like, totally takes you back.
Isn't that wild,
crazy.
man?
Yeah, like just the paper and everything.
God, dude, it touches my heart, honestly, hearing you say that, because I just, certain times in your life, there's certain these memories, and so many of mine are like that. They're tied to these comic books. And I guess my dad, he said he remembers starting to read comics when he was a kid and old enough to buy them with his own money. And he said he remembers buying Superboy. That was where he started, was buying Superboy comics. But for DC years,
gross.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, just all that stuff was in these big giant like refrigerator boxes.
Yeah,
he didn't have like comic boxes. It was just like, I'm serious, like a big TV box would be just full of comics. And so as a little kid, we lived in a camper trailer for a little while, and they had those big boxes, and I would sit there and just dig through them. And
and when you could hit issues in a row and like to be continued, and you'd read the next issue, that was the best. But like some of them, they didn't have the next ones.
Yeah, so you're like, that's it.
And then now you get like Maximum Carnage. You remember Maximum Carnage?
Yeah.
Where I had almost all of them except for one. Well, at a comic convention recently, I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, like, that's what happened to Doppelganger.
Yeah, they have stories like that too, where I'm like, I never did finish this out. There was this one set. My dad he loved Thor, and he had a lot of Thor comics. And I remember as a kid, I used to call him Fuzzy Thor in my head. It was like, oh, this is Fuzzy Thor. His chest piece was like fuzzy, and I never understood for a long time, like, what is Fuzzy? What's the difference between Fuzzy Thor and Thor? Because there was like, he would have issues where they'd both be in it, and I was still learning to read. And what I finally, as I got older and I went and looked up on the internet, I was like, what are these memories of like Fuzzy Thor and this big eye? Well, apparently these were backstories. It was like, that was old Thor. It was when Thor was before modern Thor. This is old Thor. And so old Thor looked just like modern Thor, except his clothes were fuzzy. And I was like, oh, that's fur. And it was like the way that they I guess back then it was a lot simpler. They was like, well, we'll just roughen up his suit. And he's ancient Thor. And I just, as a child, I didn't know the difference. I just remember thinking it was cool. I was like, oh, these are those fuzzy Thor.
Right.
It's just weird. And I can remember sitting, just the air around me and the light and that trailer and all that. You just kind of, I don't know, those comics are just points in your life.
Oh, yeah. Especially like someone like us, like they were huge,
impactful,
like, formative, things in our lives.
Well, dude, I mean, honestly, have you ever thought about that? I mean, I'm sure you have. I have had this thought many times where I think I got my sense of right and wrong from
for
them.
Sure. I am Peter Parker. Like, I wish I was Spider-Man. I try to be Peter Parker, huge nerd in school, pretty scrawny, kept to himself, tried to do the good thing, you know what I mean? And then, like, he got powers, and of course, we don't have those, but I am, and I'm proud to say it, I'm Peter Parker, or at least I hope to be. But yeah, you got these archetypes of these strong people that everyone can relate to, Maybe not everybody, but then the more they kept coming out, and you're like, oh, well, that's me right there.
Yeah, for sure. I was
like Stan Lee said in Mallrats, how he's like, the Hulk was a rage of emotions. He's like, I drew that from myself, Yeah. And whenever he's like, your friend sure has a lot of sexually explicit questions about it's like, well, with the comic book code and all.
But I listened to an old podcast. Somebody did an interview with, I think it was Fresh Air, one of the podcasts I listened to, and they had an old interview from several years ago with Stan Lee, and he talked a lot about that, about creating those characters, and it was just exactly what you just said. He was like, well, we wanted to do it differently, we wanted to add the human element.
That's why Marvel is superior to DC, because they have the flaws, and as a human, we can relate to them just like the Greeks did, like they had their gods. Some were all messed up and they could relate to them. And it wasn't just, some like perfection, like you got Superman, he's cool, but like this rock hurts him and that's it. So as long as you had that rock, there's no threat for Superman.
It's interesting you bring Superman up because
Batman should be a Marvel character. He's got the pathos. He's got the the horrible child. You can relate to him. His bones break when he gets punched. You know what I mean?
Have you seen that funny thing going around the internet about Batman? It's like this little conversation with this girl runs up to what is it? She goes up to Daredevil. No, it's Daredevil. She's talking to Daredevil, and she's like, "Oh, it'd be a great name. Your name should be your name should be Batman." And he's like, "Nah, why?" And she's like, "Well, because like you're blind like a bat.
Right, you
have the radar like a bat." And he's like, "No, my name's Daredevil." And I don't know. This is a funny little thing, and I thought, it's funny. It's Batman, Daredevil, and Ghost Rider all in this conversation, and like all their names are wrong.
I think
have you seen that? I'm like, man, I have never thought about this. This is so accurate. All their names would be better for the other one. But I was thinking about Superman the other day because it was the anniversary. I guess it was maybe 2 or 3 days ago, the 40th anniversary of the Richard Donner Superman movie. And you've seen that? I know you've watched that movie.
Man, I don't know.
With Christopher Reeve?
I don't know if I've seen him.
With Christopher Reeve?
Yeah, I know of the motion picture, but see, I know I get this a lot. I go around the country with Chris, and they say the same thing. Like Chris and Jim they know all movies that have ever been made, and I'm like, I grew up in DeQuincy with woods. Okay, we didn't have a TV until we picked up all the sticks in the pasture. This is a big ass pasture, so it took a while. That was a Knight Rider era. So
I got you.
From there on, I kind of have like vague. I know stuff, but
and Superman was in 78.
It's really good though.
Well, it is, and it made me. It's kind of interesting because I had a little reflection about it, and I was like, I've always wondered why I like Superman so much, and as I was thinking about it, I was like, there was something about that film, and then Superman in general, and I think it's all just a mishmash of things. Like I remember. I was little.
You get the nostalgia.
Yeah, because I was sitting on my dad's shoulders.
I've never seen it, and I'd be like, oof,
It's just a different time period,
right,
man. And like he's got just like you said, there's a code of honor. There's an honor about the character. And then when when they remade it in with Man of Steel, I got really excited. I was like, "Oh, this!"
Wait, which one?
The one that
Brandon Routh?
No, which I actually liked that.
It was okay.
See, I liked it because I think it tried to be like the old one, but I did not like these new ones. I was like,
I don't know that I've even seen them.
Really, there's just fighting and destruction, and like I watched it and I left the theater like kind of sad, dude. I'm not gonna lie, my wife. I know she remembers because I was like, I was like kind of emotional about that. Because like, man, something. This is
do I need to call somebody?
Yeah, I felt like my childhood had just kind of. And God, it sounds like typical what people do,
right?
It's
But
like it's stomping my childhood. But I did really truly have a feeling. Like it felt like
you just don't mess with.
Yeah, it didn't feel right. Something just.
Oh, have you seen the Spider-Verse yet? We're going to watch that.
I want to go see it.
I hear it's super.
Oh, y'all going to see it tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, lucky man. I want to see it.
I like all those.
Me too, dude.
At first, when I saw it, I was like, Miles Morales, that's cool.
Yeah.
I never read an episode or issue with.
Oh, really? I thought they were good. The Ultimate Spider-Man with him, it was good.
That's when they killed Peter Parker, right? It was in the Ultimate.
In the Ultimate.
And I was like, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, sure, he may be out there, but if this is where you're going with it, you killed me. Like, I feel like I'm Peter Parker. So, and I didn't really give the Miles Morales a chance, but I saw that it was with all of them, and I was like, that's cool, you know? And people were like, oh, you should like Miles Morales. I'm like, I haven't even,
Believe it or not, I was like, just like what you said, I didn't read the Ultimate Universe Spider-Man, and then when they were killing him off, I jumped in, and I was like, wow. And it was a good arc.
Yeah.
Good story. And then the Miles thing came out, and so I'm going to give this a shot because the art was good.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it was Brian Michael Bendis was writing it, and I was like, this is good. And I was like, I like it. I like it. I started to like it even more as I read it. I was like, it wasn't like they were trying to make you forget.
Right. See, and that was probably my thing, is like, it's too soon. You know what I mean? Like, I need some time to kind of get over it.
They tied it in really well, and he's a fun character. In fact, I've really almost got the feeling from Spider-Man Homecoming, the movie, that they were kind of pulling from that and adding it into that film, and which I liked.
Oh, that one was awesome. It was great.
I enjoyed
I was glad
that.
Mary Jane wasn't in it. I can't stand her. And if she is in it, because at the end they kind of said her name was
that
MJ.
girl,
I was like, that's cool, because I hate Mary Jane. She's the worst.
I don't really have a whole lot of... I guess I haven't read Spider-Man in so long. I kind of almost have a place where it's stuck in my memory, and it's where it's landed, and that's it. I don't have like a new... The movies have been my only really Spider-Man touch points for the last decade, probably.
Yeah, probably after, was it Romita Jr.? I think that was about probably like 10 years ago. I don't do hardly anything new. So, like, if you're like, you've seen this, you've seen that. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I don't read as many comics as I used to, mainly just because of time. But I don't know, man. A lot of that's just company decisions. I try to give them a chance, and I kind of tuned out. I mean, I like them both, Marvel and DC. But when they do big, I guess, line-wide changes where it's like, okay,
too frequently
also. Reboots. I don't know, I don't really love that because you get invested, and then it's like, well...
And then people are like, though, but you've had this character for 40 years. What else you can do with him? I don't know. Figure it out. Yeah. That's super lame to just be like, okay, starting over. You know what I mean? Like,
somebody had told me that they were talking about doing... And I don't think it ever came out. It never did that. But somebody had told me, or I'd read something where DC a couple of years ago was talking about doing away with the whole cohesive timeline thing altogether. And they were just, and they were just going to do let creative teams take a character and do a story, and so it wouldn't be a story where it fit like connected.
Right.
You
Continuity
know,
with
yeah,
everything
it would just be
else.
like this will be here will be a good Superman story. Here
Like
will
a
be
little one-shot,
yeah, one shot,
miniseries kind of thing.
Elseworlds type stuff. I was like,
Right.
I
What
might,
ifs?
yeah, I could do that all day long.
Remember what ifs?
Oh yeah, dude, Marvel, that was awesome, dude.
I didn't know that they were what ifs when I first started reading them because I was like, oh, what happened? Wolverine doesn't have like what's happening? Like they're like, and then the next one come out like, oh my god, all the Fantastic Four are dead.
The thing is made of cheese. What if the thing was made of cheese?
Like, that's no Gouda.
Yeah, dude. That I loved those when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Honestly, I guess it was DC who had the big line wide thing, and that was really one of my.
Then they had the Heroes Reborn, where with
Yeah.
Onslaught and X-Men
Remember all
and
of
all
that.
they got wiped. Pretty much anyone who wasn't a mutant, I think, got wiped out.
Oh,
and
dude,
then-
so many big disasters. It almost became like they had to do one a year.
Right. Oh, and then I think Liefeld did the Heroes Reborn version of the Fantastic Four. Ugh,
Yeah.
Super gross.
And dude,
He's
you know
gross.
what, man? I used to. It's sad, dude. I mean, I used to not like his art, and I don't love
Wait,
it.
where's this going?
Well, what I was
Continue.
it's not about the art, but honestly,
you're gonna say you
that
liked it, I
freaking
was
dude is a good dude, man.
He may be.
He is like I
That's
was like,
cool.
dang, man. He legitimately like fights for creator rights and
Well, that's cool.
you know what I mean? Like I was like, it was recently somebody was giving him some grief about his art, and he takes it with a grain of salt. You know, he's got
he
a
would
good
have
attitude.
to because it's terrible.
But I went in there and looked, and I read the article. I was like, man, he's actually his heart's gold, man. Like he just loves comics, dude, and he
Right.
draws the way he draws. And I got to where I was like, you know what, man, everybody gave him so much shit, and because
of his art.
man, because of his art, yeah. And I was like, but you know what? He's like a really like legitimately like a fan's artist.
Well, that's
just
cool.
like, that makes sense.
I'll
like,
give him a benefit of the doubt next time I see him at a show. I'm always like,
oh, dude, I'm guilty of some of that Liefeld stuff. To like certain anatomy that I can't draw or like I avoid. I hate it. Have you ever done that?
Just put a bush in front of it.
Oh god, have you ever done that? Like as an artist when you were learning, like I don't know how to draw this too well, so I'm gonna hide it.
Oh yeah, like a lot of behind the back scenes, you know. Well, and then I'm down on him when he was actually doing it, but like my mom found some old comic books I did, and
Yeah.
one issue was called The Scorpion. It was loosely based
creative.
based on the character
The
from
Scorpion.
Spider-Man called the Scorpion.
Loosely based on the
Very
Scorpion.
loosely based,
I like that.
same as that costume and everything. And but what I did was I put his costume on Spider-Man.
Nice.
So the Scorpion's very agile and shoots webs out of his hands for some
This is
reason.
great.
But yeah.
This is a good concept.
Yeah, I know.
Hey.
I think I'm talking about. I'm like, talk to Marvel and see if they.
Dude, I mean, you know how many people still do that in every field? It's like, what if we took this? You know, I mean,
Switch it.
yeah, and it's not an original
Like if you're
idea.
Liefeld, you just put blood in front of it or blade.
Blood or strike with a
Right,
Y.
right.
Strike with a Y.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, yeah, I remember all that stuff.
And his
Yeah.
mouths always look like sphincters. Like when you draw them, they look like little sphincters.
I guess I never really. Really, it's strange because he was very popular. Mm-hmm. But
The Wildcats. And all that. No, that was Travis Charest.
yeah, but you know, Jim Lee was before that. I mean, but
yeah.
Travis Charest, dude,
blew me away.
holy cow, his art just kept getting better and better and better.
Yeah, his stuff was crazy when they redid the Wildcats because it had like that awesome digital coloring, and his line work is just
Oh my
blows you
gosh.
away.
Well, that's like another artist that I didn't like at first. Not that the art was bad; it just wasn't my style. Was Jai Lee?
Oh yeah,
And then,
super
like-
sketchy.
Yeah, like splattery
his,
and
Dark
all that.
Tower stuff.
Oh, my
is
gosh.
mind blowing. And his
Now he just does
sketches
covers, bro.
That's all you got to do.
I mean, that's what you're. That's actually what a lot of these artists, like Gary Frank, dude. Gary Frank.
oh
is
yeah,
incredible. I mean, he to me in a lot of ways, he's like God. I don't know.
that's how you know you make it when you're just.
Oh
doing,
yeah. I'm too busy with covers
My
to do
number
interiors.
one artist, I think, is Joe Madura.
No, yeah, you like yeah. Now
oh,
see,
God.
I always
Battle
felt like Johnny
Chasers.
Segura's art and your art, like if his art was kind of like y'all's art was in that zone.
Well, I had to quit. That was when I quit reading comic books. Was at the end when Battle Chasers quit because there was only like 6 issues and it took forever for them to come out. But I was like, this looks like really crappy Joe Mad art. So I quit reading comic books and I just started working on my own because it looked you're not going to be as good as Joe Mad because he's amazing.
But he's influencing your
too much to a
No, I
point where
get
people
that.
look at him like, oh, it almost looks like good Joe Mad art, and I'm like, ugh. So kind of had to
It
like
almost looks like good Joe
Yeah.
Mad art. Oh man, okay.
So that's when I was like, okay, I just got to get away from comics and then try to find my own style. But
Well, that's interesting. That's kind of what I wanted to get at earlier. So you're in comics. I mean, I ran into you in New Orleans at a Comic Con. You were selling your book, and you saw you Paper Heroes selling. But then when I get back online, I see your art has changed, and my mom was like, "Oh man, you should see Danny's Bones series," and I hadn't seen it, and I was like, went and looked, and went, "Oh, this is totally different from
Right.
what you." I mean, at least to me, I was like, "This is a whole new thing." So do you still do those?
oh yeah,
I mean, that's like an ongoing series. For you?
yeah. My goal is to have 206 pieces
How many
altogether.
do you have?
Like 180, but about 40 of them are super terrible, so I'm gonna burn those. And
Which ones don't you like?
there's
Like, give me one.
There's like
Tell
a
me.
meerkat. It looks super dumb. He looks super derpy. He's like, what? So that one's gone. And then there's ones that people come to a con. They're like, you should do a goat or something. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll write it down on my list of things
A
to
goat.
do. And then I did a goat, and I haven't sold any, so that one's gone, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna replace it with some more. But yeah, that all started just as when we did that loon art downtown. I did a cat. I think it was a cat, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna do the bones, and then I watercolored over it, and people were like, oh, you should do this, and then this, and then now I got a ton of them.
And now you do. I mean, you went. What I thought was cool is how you branched into sort of the fantasy realm with it.
Yeah,
I liked
see,
that.
I like doing the actual animals because you kind of learn how it functions and stuff.
Yeah, the
and then-
anatomy of bones.
Right, and then sometimes you're like, that ain't right, because I'll look at articulated skeletons where I get my reference from, because I try to stay away from illustrations.
Yeah,
Because
gotcha. It'll
it's like-
influence your fluidity.
Right, that or
probably.
like it's like playing telephone. More times you go down, you lose information. But so I go for the articulated skeletons, and like a a panda bear. I was like, this ain't right. Ain't no way this is right. And it's had these weird like hammerhead orbital sockets, and like its head is like super pointy. And I was like, oh well. I looked up more images. Like, okay, well I guess that's how it looks. So I was working on it, and as I was working on it, I was like, why is it like that? It obviously has to be like that.
Sure, because it's so different from another creature.
And their heads are so round, but their thing, and I was like, oh, it eats freaking bamboo all day, so it needs those huge jaw muscles to connect in and to just chew bamboo all the time. And like, ostriches got weird hips and stuff like that, so I kind of bring those influences of weird stuff in nature to like the fantasy stuff. you
Yeah.
know? Like my dragon's got like a turkey and like dinosaur legs, and kind of mismatch from different stuff that looks like it might work.
Yeah, so you're learning really is what's happening.
Oh, yeah.
You're like taking knowledge of anatomy and creating creatures.
Yeah.
I mean, what you
And
can't see.
They're all like the actual animals are. I had a 80-something-year-old lady come up to my table one time, and I had all my bone stuff out, and she said, "Well, I'm an osteologist," and I was like, "Oh shit, I know what that means." It's like a bone. She studies bones. I was like, "Oh," so I was just kind of. She said, "Let's see how you did."
Oh,
Super old lady. She flipped to the
wow.
first one. She went 1, 2, 3,
Oh,
4. She was counting the bones, and I was like, "Holy shit!" It's like a test that I didn't study for enough.
You know you were getting.
And so when people would come up, she'd move off to the side, and then when they'd leave, she'd come back and she'd pick up counting the bone, and
Oh my
she'd go,
gosh.
"This one's good." And she'd turn it over and she'd go, 1, 2. For like 3 hours, she was in front of my booth counting bones.
Looking through your portfolio.
At the end of it,
Counting bones.
she was like, "These are really good. Just watch your vertebra," and like shuffled off. And I was like, "Cool."
What
Yeah.
the
So I was
heck,
like,
dude?
"It's like so that's kind of good that
on
she
this
went,
episode
Yeah.
of the Bone Counter. Dude.
So I don't know what her house looks like or how many cats she has, but I passed her test. She said
And
they were
think about the friggin' Zen knowledge she like laid down on you.
Right, I know.
I mean, like really now you're always going to watch those.
Well, exactly. And then when people are like, "Is this right?" I'm like, "Look, this old crazy cat lady said they were right, so that's
the
all I need to
Bone
know."
Counter was here. And she said,
Sounds like a Stephen
I
King
did
book.
pretty good.
Bone Counter.
Golly, man. That's pretty awesome.
But now I'm trying to go with like the clever and the fun ones.
Yeah, like I saw
got-
your Mario
Yeah.
and like Pikachu.
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Stuff that's like, or like the Wolverine. It's
Yeah.
a normal skeleton, but he's got adamantium, so I kind of paint him with like silver ink and stuff like that.
I like the gelatin cube.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty cool.
Well,
man.
and then like I have my Bone series, which is what I do. I go to conventions and stuff, and I sell those, and I do commissions of all kinds of stuff like portraits, oil painting, murals, and stuff like that. But I get burnt out, like doing that kind of stuff, because
you hit like that point where it's like, okay, I've done this,
or it's like, okay, I got to do it. But and it sounds ridiculous bitching about having too much stuff to draw for a living, but as soon as I get to the table for whatever project, that's the hardest part, is just getting to the table, because I'm like, because in my head it's 10 times worse than what it's gonna be.
Sure.
But as soon as I can drag myself there and get that first line down, and then it's, oh, okay, we're drawing, we're having fun. But
Yeah.
for some reason I got that mental block in my head, and it's been worse and worse recently just to get to the table. So now it's just, if I'll stand there for 30 minutes before I even pick up the pencil, but I'm looking at it. And then and as soon as I start, then I'm like, oh, all right, here we go. And then we're doing it.
Man, you're not alone in that. I mean, in our profession, it's the same way. I mean, even with any kind of graphics project, very rarely is it like, oh, I know what to do, and then you just sit down. And what's sad is,
or you think you do until you give them a rough sketch, and they're like,
yeah,
nope.
they're like, no. That's
No
not what
one,
we
people don't
wanted.
have opinions until they see the rough
Can I
sketch.
tell you something, man? In our world, nobody's got time for no rough sketch no more. Mm-hmm. It's like, I need this, and then it's like, I need it like a week ago.
I needed that.
Most of the
Right.
time, it's kind of like, by the time we get the call, it's already in
Past
DEFCON 4.
right.
Yeah, and so that's like a hard thing, because what you're talking about, that get to the desk, come up with the idea, get started, that cycle has gotten smaller and smaller to where it used to be we could take the time and have a brainstorming session, bring the client in, we're going to chew on this, come back with some verbal ideas alone, just here we're going to describe some ideas, see where that goes, go back, sketch some things out, come back, pick some colors, come back. Dude, all that, those days are dying.
Right. Well, no, like I said, nobody has time for
Nobody's
it.
got time, and nobody wants that, because there's always somebody out there who has half your experience, has never done that kind of stuff, who's just like,
But they're,
I'm a designer, I just want to work, so I don't have to wait tables. I'll take $20.
and that's fine. You get what you pay for.
Yeah,
we got.
it's just not a relationship; it's servitude.
Oh, yeah.
For those people, it becomes servitude, because it's just like, I'm just scrounging along. They're never bringing that full A game. And I mean, I'm generalizing. That's not fair,
elevate. Well, no, but it's true. I mean, stereotypes and generalizations a thing for a reason, because it's out there.
Man, it's out there. That's true.
But yeah, you don't want to elevate everybody. Hell yeah, you're worth it. Say you're worth it and charge for it. So that way, and I hate that it has to be, make money with it kind of thing.
Yeah, it always gets in the mess. It messes in the creative.
We
life.
like to eat, and electricity is really cool.
Yeah.
So
Well, every artist I've had on here, we all have said the same thing. I mean, the mailbox never stops filling up with bills. Problems don't stop coming in that need to be solved. Crises don't stop arising. I mean, those things are going to be a part of life. So yeah, I mean, you got to do something. So I mean, yeah, we all make concessions.
And my main thing that keeps me sane is I've been playing a lot of D&D lately.
Yeah, you said that earlier. What,
Man,
you've been painting the miniatures?
It's awesome. It's so much fun, because I wrote a book about 4 years ago. Okay, so I did this comic book, and let's see if this sounds familiar to you. It was set in the Old West. Okay, so there's this bounty hunter, and he's going on a bounty. He's got his horse with him, and then this out of nowhere, you wouldn't think it, but a spaceship lands. He goes on it, and the alien's dying, and he can't understand him. Well, the alien puts this device on his forearm.
Come on.
And then the alien dies. Well, the ship takes off with the cowboy. And so now he's got to do this intergalactic bounty hunt. Well, then I finished the first issue, colored, lettered, printed. And I'm sitting in the movie theater with Morgan.
Oh, no.
Can we say, I don't know what bad words we can say.
No, you
in
can
here.
say whatever you want. It's free reign.
What's his name? Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig, yeah.
Harrison Ford, Olivia Wilde, who is beautiful, were in this movie called Cowboys and Aliens. And I was like, son of, in the theater, Morgan was like, it's okay. I was like,
How does that, but it's,
I know. I don't understand it. And then maybe it was something before, and there's nothing new under the sun. But in my story, he went out into the
and in that story, they stayed
here, right.
But it's very similar right up to
so
that
after
point.
that, I was like, I'm done with original ideas. I'm going as generic as I can. What's generic that's been done a million times? Oh, fantasy. I'm like, okay, we're going high fantasy. We're going elves and wizards and knights and dragons and stuff like that. That's not new, but it's the tools you work with to make it new, you know?
Yeah.
So I wrote this book. It's called The Shadow Wars, and it was like 300 pages. I wrote it in like 9 months every day. I wrote that, read Stephen King's On Writing. Mm-hmm. It's really good.
What's it called?
On Writing.
Okay.
And it's not very long, but he narrates it, or it's in an audiobook, and he reads it, and half of it is his experience as a writer, and then the second half is like his tips on how to become a good writer and stuff like that. And it was really interesting. And he was saying, like, you make a character, you know what he would or would not do in a situation, and then you put him in that situation. It's not you doing it, it's how this character would.
You've given him responders and rules of response.
And then when you're stuck, you're like, oh, what not what's going to happen next, what would he do in this situation?
Right.
You know, he might not be brave and valiant, he might crap his pants and run the other direction, but that's where this story is going to take you, you know?
Yeah.
Well, so I did that, and it was a lot of fun. Once you got into the groove, it was like watching a movie that you were making, because like when I was teaching, I'm like, okay, well, I know that this part's coming up. I'm like, ooh, how's that going to happen? As soon as I started typing, I'm like, oh, yeah, do it, son.
You fell into the character.
Yeah, like I was watching it. Well, so I finished that book, and then about 4 years later, my nephew was like, hey, have you ever heard of D&D? It's called Dungeons and Dragons. And I was
funny.
like, that sounds neat. I played it a little bit in high school, and I had a couple characters and a paladin. Hell yeah, lawful good, gotta have that.
Yeah.
Which so we started playing, and it's just so much fun. And it's weird. There's a huge like occurrence from it, I guess, from Stranger Things, which I still haven't seen that either.
Are you serious? This is good. I think you'll like it.
That's what everybody says.
Oh yeah, you'd like it for sure.
But yeah, I've been playing that and making my little minis, like just terrain and all kinds of stuff. And that's I'm burnout with what I have to do, and I know that making these ruins with this, I'm gonna make some flock tonight, make my own flock or whatever, you know, that's the thing that I'm looking forward to still making and creating, but it's for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I actually do understand what you're saying, believe it or not.
It's draining.
You're actually sitting in that for me right now, because this show
is that what that is?
Yep, that's right, you're sitting right on it.
That's squishy.
But no, really, I get in those places too where those that it's very similar. I mean, as a team, we get there, and I needed something to be a constant reminder that one that takes me out of that space, that headspace, and then puts me into something else that I care about. And really, what I've found is that I care about people.
Well, there you go. That's
lot.
A good thing.
I mean, I like people. I like people more.
We like you too, Oran.
Well, man, thanks, because I sure like doing this, and I hope that. And I hope it's a good experience for the other people, but selfishly, in a way, that's kind of what I'm asking people. You're kind of giving me like that reprieve,
right?
You know, and it gets me not out of my head, but almost more into it, but in a different way. I get to navigate into different places instead of that space that the job kind of keeps you in all the time, you know. And if I could feel that sort of happening where I'm like, going, okay, I've got to break that cycle, or this is not going to work. It's like running flipping a circuit switch on and off too much. Eventually that...
And my thing is, when I get like that, it's usually about a month later that I realize, it's because I'm burning out. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to be aware of it sooner. That way it doesn't take as long to like recharge, you know?
Yeah. Well,
I procrastinate like crazy. Like I wait till the last minute to do everything. So that doesn't help.
See, it's crazy because I don't know what anybody would say, but I like planning and I like organizing and doing things like that, you know? But what happens is, because of the nature of this job, all the planning I do most of the time gets crashed and burned and thrown out the window, but it's not in my nature and so it's like that sort of cycle. So it seems like I'm always rushing and that I don't have a handle and that I function that way, and I go, actually I don't function that way, but the nature of the things I'm dealing with do.
You have to, right?
You know, so it's a weird, it's a strange place. It is a strange place. It's strange. And what it does to your mind. And so I think if you do that too long,
oh yeah,
it's like kind of like a engine running on a bent rod or something. It's like
and
eventually.
Then,
it's
on the
gonna
other
jack
hand,
up.
I hate to even voice complaint about having too much art to do. You know what I mean?
No, I know, because you're like, boy, it's art, and some people are looking at that and going, "What are you doing, man? It's art. It's fun.
Right.
I would give anything to do art."
And it is, but it's just like anything. Like I'd really like ice cream, but if I eat that every day, I'd get sick. You know what I mean?
Well, you can. Anybody can reduce anything anybody else does to its most base form whenever they hear them complaining about it.
Right.
I mean, it's easy to go look at what I do and people go, I mean, any of the number of things you could say. I mean, what do you do all day? You could point a camera at something and just, I can do that with my phone.
right.
And when, I'm like, you're not wrong, but you're really oversimplifying.
Exactly.
You know, you're really oversimplifying this. So yeah, I get that.
But and then another huge thing that I have is like growing up, I always had support. My family was always very supportive. My dad was really supportive of me. And then married Morgan, and that was a huge blessing because she's super awesome. I have skills. I can do some stuff, and I can do some stuff pretty good. But I can't do everything, and thank God I got Morgan because she is awesome. She can do all those things that I need help with, and she's glad to help with. You know, she's not one of those kind of people that's like, oh yeah, she doesn't do stuff for a thank you or because, you know, she's just is a good person and will help you.
Yeah.
So it's always nice to have her on my side.
Well, it's what we're talking about. You have somebody in your life who has gratitude, right? I mean, it's being gracious.
Oh, and she's super genuine about like whatever she is, who she is. There's no like deception roles with anything. You know what I mean? Like, but
well, and who needs that? Look, I'll be honest.
Ugh, it's so like
it's so vile. We, you know, and I the show's about finding the good, but sometimes for me to find the good, you got to go through something bad.
Oh yeah.
I always think
yin and yang.
The goal is to get out of that and maybe take something away from it. But like my family, just in the last week, went through something with some folks that weren't very genuine, and oh man, like the poisonous, oily feeling that I've had since that encounter, where I went, dang, dude, I really thought I knew the character of a person, and then I found out, oh wow, actually I didn't know at all. I feel like it was all over me. I still to this day sitting at this table, it's like just sort of like
we all have those kind of times where, and then you kind of question yourself, like, how did I not see that?
Yeah, how did I not see it? And then upon retrospect, reflection, I start to go,
you kind of see those warning signs.
Why didn't I was naive. I start to feel naive. I feel gullible.
Exactly. I know. I've recently the same thing.
Well, it's your persimmon story.
Right.
It's like, I feel like
I'm still leery anytime.
Now I'm leery. And see, it was weird because I'm now doing this show. The whole goal for me, one of the lessons I'm trying to take from this is to learn again in my life to not be that way with people, to be more forthcoming and genuine and honest. And that takes work. I mean, it's practice. I mean, some people just fall, like you just said, your wife's like that. You know, she's easy like that. I'm not everybody's like that. And for
she's
me,
like Sunday morning.
She's easy like Sunday morning. Yeah. I have to work at it. And so being dead center of that work, and then for that to happen, I went, oh, this is a weird.
Is it worth it? You're kind of questioning, like,
man, maybe I shouldn't be so. Maybe I should be so open, so trusting. And I'm like, man, sorry, but that's just bullshit to that. I'm not going to allow
Can't
that.
Let them dictate.
No, bro, because there's too much good to come from attempting to make real relationships than shelling up, man, and getting like 10 extra sets of ribs around my heart, you know, that extra thick sternum.
Good if you're a vampire, though.
Well, yeah, Blade. Yeah, you might have some trouble getting through the old sternum. But I don't know.
But yet, on the other hand, I am a huge hermit, and I don't like to leave the house. You know, so I don't know. I like the people I like.
I get that.
And I'm sure there's a lot of cool people out there I haven't met. And like when we go to those shows, like we're way out of there. And like one guy we go with is Chris Fulton, Chris Oz Fulton, awesome guy, super good guy. But he's very like kind of closed off and like, what's everybody's angle? You know what I mean? And then Jim, he's a little cynical too. Super good guy though. Like we're good buddies, but I'm pretty open, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? Talking to everybody, like, hand somebody a quarter if they're on the side of the road or, whatever. And they're like, don't talk to them.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, they're just good people. And then you start hearing about some of these people and you're like, nah, I shouldn't have talked to nobody.
Yeah.
So
I know,
like,
man. It's so hard to gauge. And what I guess I'm afraid I forget sometimes that people, oddly enough,
people are weird.
Are weird. Yeah. I mean, and I don't mean weird, like weird can be really good.
Oh, yeah.
I guess what I mean is like...
weird is relative.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of weird out there.
Weird, creative weird, like that's interesting weird, or weird that's fascinating weird.
Weird,
but
like
when you get
eats
into
mayonnaise with his
weird,
toenails.
like dangerous weird,
Right.
like...
Bottles
There's like
his own pee kind of
bats
weird.
with wings made out of knives flying around their head, weird,
Right.
and you're like, I didn't know that was going on up there. And it's like very well hidden, that kind of stuff. That's scary. Like sociopath weird. That's not the kind of weird I need to be.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes hard to you have to get somebody enough time to reveal that sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes
By
it's
that time, it's too late.
It's too
Exactly.
late.
Like, God.
They got you.
Why am I tied up in your basement?
Yeah, they got your bedroom covered in visqueen.
Kill room.
Getting a blood sample. Oh my gosh, dude. How'd we get there?
Because people are weird.
Yeah, just weird stuff. No, man. I mean, honestly, you and Morgan are kind of like a power couple in that regard. I mean, the way y'all fit together.
It is awesome. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, met her in art school and went from there, and 12 years together, and we're together all the time at
All
the
the
house.
time.
'Cause, like, homeschool Ruby, she's there. We're always together. And then whenever I go out of town, that's the only time we're really apart. But it's it works out really well. And that's like in Avengers or whatever, and he's like Tony Stark's like, we have a Hulk. And I always say, well, I have a Morgan.
I have a Morgan.
Yeah, and I mean, if you got a Hulk in your corner or a Morgan, you're gonna make it out pretty good.
Yeah, man. Y'all, I remember when she was on the show, the way, I mean, she talked the same way about you, man.
But she
It was
better.
like, she did,
What?
dude. She went into like Danny. I was like, wow, man. And then to hear you say the same stuff, I mean, that's just a beautiful thing. And I asked her the same question but do you ever meet people that go, how do y'all do it? Like being together all the time.
I don't have an answer for that. Like, we just like each other. Like I don't have a whole lot of friends. And
Really?
that's not in a bad
No,
way.
what do you mean by that though? Like, what do you mean? Because I know what I could say the same thing. and
People
I know
that
what
I put
mean.
pants on for.
Ah, yeah. Are you wearing pants today?
I am. So
Yeah, so I go, okay,
you're
good.
making it on the list. But I mean, I have friends and I know accomplices. Not accomplices. That's for a whole different. What are they called?
Acquaintances.
Yeah, accomplices is something.
Accomplices like you going to rob a bank.
Right. And I have a couple of those people too, but I don't want to talk about that on air. No, I know a lot of people, and I'm friendly with a lot of people. I like people. I do. It's nice to be nice and that kind of stuff, but the people that I'll actively seek out, I just don't have.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm cynical or grouchy or anything. I'm kind of lazy when it comes. I'm socially lazy. Like,
I understand.
Morgan's a captive. She can't leave. She's there. So, like, we're friends. You know?
Yeah. My wife and I can honestly relate to that. I mean, my favorite place in the world to be is just at home with my
Oh,
family.
yeah,
you know?
for sure.
I feel happy there, and that doesn't mean there's never conflict from the outside world that comes in that you have to deal with. But I mean, that's my place. I like to be. It's nothing. It's maybe not anything special to anybody else. I mean, but it's
And I've
everything to me.
always been like that. So it wasn't until like, I guess, like I said, I was pretty sheltered growing up, and then when like college hit, and then like the internet, and then MySpace, like we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I get to see the world out there, you know.
Yeah.
But I've always been like a homebody. It's not one of those things like, well, I guess I'm growing up and I'm a homebody. And I'm like, nope, I've always been home, drawing, reading comics, watching TV, whatever.
Yeah. No, I get that totally. I mean,
And I love it. It's
well, you
awesome.
could go to back before the internet, and whenever we had, there was no way to go explore the world. You had to read
it out,
You had to
right.
go, do. I don't know. You read a comic book and you're like, oh, that's something out there in the world,
Or you don't realize it is until like a couple years later when you're like, oh, Kathmandu is a real place. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's actually not just in the Marvel universe.
I guess when I was a kid reading that stuff, I almost like suspended my disbelief I guess on some level. And I mean, even that sounds
Today.
nuts, but like I had this sort of idea in my head that maybe some of that stuff was possible. And then I started thinking, like, even now as I'm getting older, you're starting to see things that you go, oh, wow, that's something that wasn't possible then, and now it's possible. So, I mean, who's to say?
Wait for that next little breakthroughs.
And I'm happy, I know it.
You've probably heard me mention filming videos, building websites, creating logos, or building brands on this podcast. Well, there's a good reason for that. I'm a brand builder, and my brand is Parker Brand Creative Services. My team and I have built countless brands in the Gulf Coast region, and a lot of our work in the travel and tourism industry is experienced across the country and honestly the whole world. We have our specialties: web, logo, package, and whole brand design, as well as video production and photography. But the reality is, we function as a full-service advertising agency to businesses that don't really mesh well with larger advertising agencies or just don't want to have in-house creative departments. But don't listen to what I say. Just go to our website, parkerbrandup.com, and take a look at what we do. We're a show it, don't say it team. Okay, you should definitely say it too, but you know what I mean. That's parkerbrandup.com. We think sideways, we push forward, and we'll get your brand up.
So take this, you've earned it, a melody and chorus.
There's a lot of local people are pretty awesome around here, you know?
Oh, sure, man. I mean,
all kinds of talent.
Dude, that's the thing. I mean, so many people are out there doing something.
They're doing what's true to them, and that's always going to be the best thing you'll ever do. You know what I mean? Like, what you want to do, you're always going to do better at that than something you don't want to do.
And that's what you've done, right? I mean, like, you made decisions in the last few years that have shifted your whole life.
Super happy. Every day from the past 3 years has been the best day ever. Even like on crappy days, because it's like, I'm doing what I want to do, and it's awesome. Even those days where I can't get to the table, I still have a table to get to, and I still have something to do on that table. So that's always nice.
So many people, man, when life hands them like a big change, I mean, it doesn't go that way. You know what I mean? It's like defeatism.
Right. Well, and then there's the risk. There's risk involved.
Yeah.
Like, it's you got to do it. You got to do it to know that you can or can't do it, you know? And if you don't, then no regrets, you know?
Yeah, there's no way to know until you try.
Right.
I mean, it's really, well, it looks like what you've done is you've been trying.
I have.
You go with, you do it, you take an action, you test it.
You see what works, what doesn't work.
And that's discernment, you know? I mean, I'm guilty of doing things without discernment in my life, you know, and I wish I had, and, you know, I'm trying to learn still.
Well, you learn from it. Even the crappy situations, still, you know, you're gaining some experience.
Oh, and I'm kind of idealistic, man. Like, I have these beliefs and things I hold to, and I put them to the test all the time. And sometimes I'm proven that they don't work. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, even like that little conflict I was telling you about with that oily kind of feeling, it was like that. I'm like, well, I'm going to put my principles and the things I believe heavily to the test, you know? And
that can be risky.
You know, it was risky, and it didn't work. And
not
so
everything will.
I can walk away and go, well, that doesn't work. Or I go, well, maybe it does. Maybe it's just there's certain circumstances.
A lot of variables. Yeah. There's always variables that are always taken consideration. Because, like, if there was a surefire way to do something super awesome, I'd do that all the time.
Yeah.
That don't exist.
Doesn't work
There's
like
always
that.
variables. Like commissions, working with somebody. Humans are the biggest variable in the world.
Absolutely. It's my greatest love and fear. It's the truth.
But it's also, you know, why we're awesome, because we are so varying.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, sure. I mean, there's like that meme going around that's the gray people, you know, the gray face people. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like everybody's sort of just parroting everybody else. It's like these programmed people, you know, and it's people, every time somebody starts complaining about something, there's like 40 of those little things in the background going, rah, 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 you know, just kind of mimic it. And it's just, I guess I get the point. It's like, it's so easy to just adopt the same voice as somebody else without having your own. Oh, yeah.
Look at Bobcat Goldthwait. If he would have done that, or Gilbert Gottfried, they followed their own voice. As grating and terrible as it was, they followed their own voice.
This is true. So, what do you think about diving in the fishbowl over there?
Ooh, I like it.
All right, dude. Let's get to it.
I'm nervous.
That's okay. Don't be nervous,
and
man.
Excited.
I hope you dig deep, man, because look, the last few times, I mean, real.
Oh,
both ways. Yeah, dig in there, and in yourself when you answer these.
I think I got a good one.
All right, hand them to me.
look like Chinese
You can't
fortune-
read them.
I can't read them?
No, I'm gonna read them.
Oh, this one had a question mark at the end. I'm gonna pick another one.
No,
I
it's
guess
okay.
they all do. 'cause
They
the
all do.
questions
They're all
don't make
yeah.
sense.
They're all questions. I think.
There you go.
Don't peek.
I didn't.
All right. Well, this is a good one. It's perfect for what we've been talking about.
Good. I picked it. No.
Has your project, passion, and work changed you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, more?
No, that's good. I mean, yeah.
It has. It's brought me where I'm at today. And my passion's always been drawing or any kind of art. And I knew that was always going to be a part of me. And I'm glad that it still is. And I'm really glad that it's kind of my defining, it's me. It's who I am. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, that's what I wonder too sometimes about what I do and who I am. Are those two things together? And did one define the other? Mm-hmm. And I think it's like you said, doing creative work and things like that, in whatever way that manifests, it's a part of me. But who I am outside of that also sort of bleeds into that.
Right.
So it's
Oh,
like
yeah,
two
for
things.
sure.
I guess they change each other.
mm-hmm. Well, it's a
They change each other. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Two things. Yeah.
Snakes facing each other.
But I mean, yeah, I know I can't imagine. Sometimes I daydream about what would life be like if this were my trade or this were.
Meteorologist.
Yeah.
If I was not
Alternate
an artist,
trade?
meteorologist.
Because you just love the weather.
Yeah, and it's okay if you're wrong.
Oh yeah,
You know?
right. No
Like,
stress.
Not a whole lot of accountability, but
Well, yeah, because the joke's already out there. Oh, the weatherman, whatever. People
exactly,
don't. Yeah, so it's already out
It's not
there.
like, hey, that one weatherman's really bad. They're all
The expectation's
like,
so low.
Exactly, and weather's always job security.
Yeah, man.
You're always
God, I
gonna
didn't even
have
think about that. Kind of looks fun too.
I know it does. I just want a green screen.
Yeah.
basically.
I don't know, man, what mine would be. Shoot. I know I always tell this story to people. What I was privately, never on the podcast.
Oh, here we go. First time.
No, like when I was probably maybe 21 or 22, like my big goal was to just, even my mom probably doesn't know this, but my big plan was to just go to India and wander off into freaking cave somewhere.
Hell yeah.
And learn the secrets of the universe, dude. Like I was like, what else?
Still time.
Oh,
Oran.
there's still time. Yeah,
I can be a meteorologist.
Oh
and
my
you can
gosh,
get
dude, that was
caves.
my other career move. Yeah,
Like,
and so like what I
Petra?
ended up doing
Check out
instead
Petra.
was dating a girl and getting married and like having kids, getting divorced, all that stuff. I did all that other secret of the universe
Right.
stuff.
There's nuggets to be gleaned everywhere.
Oh sure, I mean it's like it's just something on a podcast I listen to says. He goes, "You bring in plans to a life fight," and I'm like,
Right.
"Yeah, dude,
Exactly.
that's totally it." Like I had all these
Yep.
plans, and that ain't it, man. I ain't.
Don't plan, just improvise.
Yeah, just rolling with whatever's come along. All right, dude, that was a good one, and we dove deep. Let's go for number two.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Let's see.
All right, don't peek.
Oh, I looked at it again,
Man,
Oran.
it's all right, dude. It's all right.
No, it had a lot of words. It looked really hard.
It's math.
There's no math. Oh, okay.
no math. No math questions.
Good.
Let's see what we got here. Aw.
Oh, Morgan. No.
What breaks your
Cats. Oh yeah. No. What breaks
heart? Are
my
you tenderhearted? Yeah. What breaks your heart? Are you a tenderhearted guy?
heart? It depends.
What? Okay. What like really gets that heart quivering for you?
Acts of heroism.
Oh yes, God, dude.
Like,
Go on.
I
Tell me
can't-
more.
I don't know if it's ever since we've had Ruby or what, but like I can't watch like a movie with like swelling music and like a hero self-sacrificing himself for doing something without like Ruby will look at me. She's like, "Are you crying?" I'm like, "It's okay. These are good tears."
Yeah, dude.
Like that kind of stuff, where you see people just being awesome, like that gets me. Like when they don't have to be, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
or just what you're about to do is right, but it ain't good for you, and you do it anyway. Like,
Yeah, dude.
Or like those war movies that's real, like that. That gets me. I'm like,
Oh, what was the one, man? I just
the one with the horses? I haven't seen that
No,
one yet. They're so
Hacksaw.
rough. Oh, Hacksaw Ridge. I can't watch that. It's gonna
Have
be-
you watched it?
I
You haven't?
That
Dude.
will break me. I just watched Wonderful Life for the first
It's
time.
exactly what you're talking about,
It's-
though. Man, I'm freaking dehydrated after
Yeah,
watching
like
that.
I can watch those like once. Like I
Yeah.
watched the Lone Survivor once. Oh, we watched Rudy.
Rudy? Oh, wow, yeah.
Ruby.
Golly.
That was our first time watching it. And like he gets accepted, And me and Morgan are like bawling, and Ruby's like, "Are y'all all right?" We're like, "He made it in."
Do you know what, man? That kind of goes back to what we were talking about comic book characters and that act of heroism and that sense of justice. I totally get it. I do the same thing. That gets my heart moving.
Like when Uncle Ben died, like I don't care. That's fine. People die, whatever. But like when Spider-Man's like saving people and I was like bawling, and like I cried more watching Spider-Man than when Ruby was born, because it's like it's the hero doing something, you know.
I get it.
And it gives you the hope that you can do that, or that someone else can do that.
That you have the potential that when the moment comes, that you're willing. I know, I get it. I'm attracted to those types too. There's pictures I keep around my office, in my private office in there, where for that reason, because there are people from history that were like that. One of them's Gandhi, where and especially when I watch the movie Gandhi. Have you ever watched the movie Gandhi?
Dude, Ben Kingsley?
Yes. Yeah, oh my gosh, dude. One of the best performances of an actor ever. But it's a good... I mean, it's good just in general. But if you like that makes your heart quiver.
Yeah.
Dude, just watching that man step out. I mean, into violence and into aggression, unarmed, with nonviolence as his weapon. And peace, just every time I'm just swept away, like in all this emotion. I'm like, this just is possible for a human being.
And then you kind of question, like, is it? Can this even? But then, it did.
Exactly. What
So
if
it's
somebody
proof.
wrote something about him, and I'm going to totally butcher it. I do this every time, everything. But they said, there will come a day when we will scarcely believe that a man such as he ever walked the earth. That's like big words. Ever walked the earth, that a man, and I go, what does that mean? You could blow that off and go, he said, but anybody? No, man, for real, it's the truth about Gandhi. It's unbelievable that a human being like him walked the earth. That's what I believe. And it just, again, it's another thing.
And if one person can do it, you know, maybe you won't be Gandhi, but you could strive to be Gandhi. Maybe you can't be Peter Parker, but you can try to be Peter Parker.
Well, nobody wants aggression to land on their doorstep, and when we're faced with it, all our instincts scream to just meet it back. And to see the human being can sort of wrestle with that and quell that part of themselves, and most people see that as weak and then or cowardly, but then to see it as strength, and then also to see it overcome, what was the word he had, satyagraha, I think, is soul power, soul force. And that was what he said, we will overcome our enemy with our soul force. I'm like, wow,
I have a story about soul force.
Well, bring it on, man.
I was in, I think, 6th grade, and I was super scrawny. I looked like I had a wasting disease. Super nerd, kept to myself. And one day, the guy on the bus, I think his name was Michael Clark, big old guy, kind of scary. And something happened. Me and my friend were sitting together, and he called us out. And I was like, I'm tired of it. I had enough. And I was like, as soon as I started it, I was like, oh God, I'm about to get my ass kicked.
I'm in trouble.
I was like, stop saying blah, 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 whatever. I can't remember what it was about. But he was like, he said, today we get back on the bus, I'm going to kick your ass. And I was like, okay. Like, I had nothing.
But you stood up and you did it.
did.
Yeah.
All day. I was like, well, dead man walking.
Yeah,
This is
and
gonna be
on the anxiety of
terrible bus ride home. But then one of my friends told me that he liked to draw. And I was like, what would Peter Parker do right now? He tried to figure out a way around this and maybe even make a friend. So we got on the bus, and I was like, Michael, I know without a doubt you can kick my ass. And you probably
you've already won.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be fun for you. I was like, but can you draw better than me? And he was like, I don't know what you thinking. I was like, I don't know, pick an X-Men character. And he was like, Wolverine. And I was like, okay, I'll do Cyclops. And went home that day, drew up a Cyclops. It was pretty kick-ass.
I freaking love this story.
He came back the next day, and he's like, what you got? And I was like, I got my Cyclops. And he was like, all right, old school, got the visor. And then I was like, well, where's your Wolverine? It was super terrible, and it looked really bad. But I was like, Michael, that's really good. And he's like, what you want to draw tonight? And I was like, I don't know, more X-Men. He's like, let's do some Avengers. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'm gonna do Vision. And after that, we were good friends. And
isn't that wild?
We trade out. But I was like, I know you can kick my ass.
Soul
let's
force,
try this.
bro.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know that was the terminology for it.
Yeah,
but I like
Satyagraha, I believe. You can look it up, but I'm
soul
pretty
force
sure
that guy right in the
force.
face.
I mean, dude, it is. It's and when it works, it's like I want to do that again.
Yeah, it's almost like Jedi
I want to
mind
make a
trick,
friend
magical.
again.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
And then he was still a big scary guy growing up, and we eventually caught up to the same grade level, but because that's happens sometimes. But he was always on my side. I had him in my corner if anything went down. I'd be like, come on, let's do it. I'll draw you something.
Man, that's awesome. I actually really freaking love that story, dude. And I wish every story had that kind of ending.
All right,
I mean, because sometimes it doesn't work, but I don't think it's a reason to not try.
Yeah,
I would rather try that first, second, third, fourth, and fifth before having to resort to rolling up my sleeves any day.
Getting my ass kicked. Me too.
Right, me too.
Right at that point, anything was a
yeah. I mean, because when you have to stick your body in harm's way, I mean, things get real, man. Right. It's a whole different level of thing, That's interesting about the internet. You can have a lot of courage now without having
it's so
to.
gross.
It's disgusting.
It's the internet's so faux. It's like faux outrage, faux morals, faux everything. Like,
you were in that same comment thread, that big long thing the other day.
Which one?
The one where you were like, I made a turtle. Oh, yeah. But you saw where that whole thing was going. Right. It was so negative.
It's just vitriol, and not just in that, but just in, like, I'm sorry, but the internet has made people, like, cowardly, could just say whatever you want without consequences. Not to be like old school, like, you say that to me, we're gonna have a problem.
Right.
Might not punch in the face, but I'm gonna be like, hey, I don't know about that, or I'll just ignore you forever.
It's very interesting.
But you got that buffer zone where you don't
that actually happened to me. What you just described, you literally just described from that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had somebody that I felt like was close to me that kind of knew some painful things that had happened to my family, and came into that conversation and sort of used those things to attack me out of nowhere. And so I thought, what's the right thing to do? I don't want to do what everybody else is doing, which is like just yakking on the internet. So I was like, well, I'll just go down to their home and say, hey, look, I thought we were friends. Why would you say that? I don't think it's right. That did not go good at all. I went down there, really, truly, I did. Like within
an hour. Always wanted to.
Well, I didn't want to. It wasn't like going in there, hey, let's fight. I was like,
right. Oh
hey,
yeah,
I thought we were friends. Mm-hmm. Why would you use that? And then I come to find out, this is again what you don't. It's called perception. Oh, we're not friends. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, we're not friends, and they don't care about me.
Right.
I was like, oh, well, then I wasn't.
Well, that's good knowledge.
And it's good to know, and I'm actually glad it was revealed, because it lets me know where we stand. But I didn't know that, and so I kind of went in with what you were talking about, like, hey, let's draw X-Men characters. But actually, really, what I was hoping for was like a man-to-man kind of an apology, like, hey, you did wrong. Can you recognize it? Will you apologize? And that didn't happen. It was more like, no, I don't care. And
I'm doubling down.
It was just a real strange situation. But I was like, well, at least now I know.
Delete.
That. And you used the word yourself, so I guess I'll say it too. It was more like, okay, so cowardice is really, it's sort of become the way of the internet. We can just say crap.
It's like your default.
Yeah, I can just say stuff and throw these fireballs at you. And so, I was like, wow, man, so this is still out there. It's been a long time since I've been in any kind of a comment thread where I was interested in it. And that one was kind of relevant to...
Go to KPLC comments.
No, I don't even follow it because I can't do it.
Yeah, I took it off. Every once in a while, I'll be like, okay, what's happening locally?
It's reality TV drama type stuff. It's so
recipes,
nasty.
Usually crockpot recipes. I'll put them in the threads.
That's good. That's good. And what you were doing in that thread is, hey, I made this turtle.
Right, a little bit of levity.
Well, trying to keep things out of the negative zone, but it's easy to slide down that hole, man, and just let emotion and all this stuff just like totally grab you and take your mouth and your key, your fingers or whatever.
Memories. We were talking about that. I'm like, I'll see stuff I said 6 years ago. I'm like, gross, like disgusting. I would totally unfriend myself if I read that now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like political stuff that doesn't matter. Like,
right.
This is formal to everyone out there that may have read any political posts that I've ever made. I apologize and have since not done those anymore ever.
I think that's why I like this format. And I've been thinking about it a lot in the last few days, especially because this format allows two people to sit down and have a conversation face to face. That's right. There's no misunderstanding.
Right. There's no... also, my like syntax, inflection on the words, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't even have to put a winky face on it.
And nobody
You know what
can
I mean?
come into the conversation
Right.
and derail it and go off on these side avenues. Once it's posted, sure.
Yeah.
Let the fun begin or whatever.
That's why
and
I
you don't
stick
have to.
to my D&D stuff. Zero opinions on that. First off, I'm the DM, so whatever I say goes. Ruby pictures, she's adorable. That's undisputed. Like, and my art.
Yeah. Well, dude.
And art, you can have opinions about, and that's
You
totally
don't
fine.
know who you're talking to half the time out there. I mean, who has bees in their brain and who doesn't?
Exactly.
I mean, some people have real freaking hornets nests up there, and you're like, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like I thought, because you're basing your whole reality on your own mind.
Of your perception of what this.
Yeah,
and most of these
I mean,
people
that's-
you've never met in real life either. We did a Finch job for this guy. His name was Carol Staines. This person has liked my art for quite a while, and then this person messaged me like, "Hey, we need a fence." And I was like, "Okay, well, we build fences." So, and then I said, "Yes, ma'am." And then I was like, "Wait." And I looked at the page, and it was a guy. So for these 4 years or however long that he has been on and he's liked my stuff. I've liked their person. I thought it was a woman the whole time because the name was Carol, and that's just a simple little thing.
But your mind went bloop.
And not just from that, I had a totally different representation of who this person was. And then I met him, and I was like, "Yes, sir. Like, you're a dude." Like,
Totally, I've done the same thing.
and that's just one little thing that you do to everybody on there that you don't intimately know. You know what I
Right.
mean? And you're like, you start putting projections onto them. Yeah, it's gross.
I know.
I don't
And
know.
if you're not around the people enough, like day to day, sometimes I think you can like make mistakes. Like I've done it where I'm going, well, I've met somebody half a dozen times. Well, I haven't had a deep dive like you and I are doing, where we've been talking for a solid about an hour,
Right.
and then you and I know each other, but like we're really getting to know each other even more at the table. So I haven't done
What's your
that with
blood type?
them. Oh, positive.
What?
man.
Get some.
Is
I
that
don't
what
know
you-
mine. I like to keep it a
Aw,
mystery,
man.
so that way people won't.
I know, because now
siphon.
the O positive like blood out there is gonna be like, man, Oran got that O positive.
Right.
I got lucky though, man. It's
Take
Oran.
good
It's O
stuff.
positive, dude. It's like a nickname and a blood type.
Uh-huh. Be
I'm O
positive.
positive, bro. Both, figuratively and literally. No, man. I mean, it's like if you don't get to know somebody, or like even if you meet them a half dozen times in a year, you're only getting like just a little taste. Well, who knows what kind of shields that person's putting up?
Or
so
what
that-
they've gone through in the few times
they're
you've seen them.
tailored. Well, if you don't know them day to day, man, I mean, I've learned that the hard way in the last couple of weeks. If you don't know them day to day, or at a table like this where you're really digging, you may not ever really get
You
to
just
know
get the
'em.
facade.
You get a little piece, and then you're building your mind, whether you know it or not, just building that up. And there could be like, it could be dangerous. It could be, I mean, just, you don't know what's going on.
People are
It's sad,
weird.
man.
People are weird.
My dude, I'm weird.
Me too. But we're
We're safe weird.
safe weird.
Safe weird, I hope.
We're like the van that comes in with candy and actually just gives you candy.
Actual candy.
Right. Or like
Yeah.
maybe a couple puppy snuggles.
Yeah, puppy
And
snuggles.
that's not like euphemism.
All right, bro. You got one more question. This is it. Last one.
God, I hope it's not
No,
bad.
man. I'm breaking you over the coals with these.
See. Oh, I almost looked at it, but I
Almost did.
didn't. I'm learning.
All right, here we go.
12. Purple.
Oh, okay. Well, we kind of talked about this
Tuesday.
earlier, man. Morality, is it learned, inherited, or both? What do you think morality? I mean,
Like your core, what you think is right and wrong.
yeah, right and wrong. Where do you get your morals? Where's Danny get his morals? Did you learn them, or are they just in you?
I gotta say, you learn them. I gotta say, family, a complete family unit is your best tool to be a good person. You gotta have a mom. You gotta have a dad.
Nuclear.
Nuclear. I mean, what does that mean?
All the
Radioactive?
parts. No. no.
No.
You don't all get power. Nuclear means
Right.
like it's functioning like an atom. You've got
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
you know,
it's all
protons,
cohesive
neutrons,
together.
electrons. Yeah, all the pieces
Gotta
together.
have a mom. Gotta have a dad. Brothers and sisters, take them or leave them. They're gonna add to it one way or the other. But like teaching, I know who these kids. I know which ones don't have a
Really?
nuclear family because they're missing something, and they try to get it. Like I tell which ones don't have the consistent dad figure because they were try to get it from me, and I tried to give it to them as much as I could. But I'd say it's definitely learned, and that's one of the biggest problems with this world is a dysfunctional family kind of unit. You know what I mean?
No, I think you're right, and
Gotta
to a
have
large
that.
degree,
And people
I-
don't want to say that because maybe it's kind of an out or a, well, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
so
you could have a mom and a dad, and let's say have an abusive father, okay,
Right.
hypothetically, and then a nurturing mom, and then you maybe have both the elements, but one's
no.
askew. So that's not what you're talking
No,
about.
no,
It's not
I'm
like
talking-
autopilot. Yeah.
No, you got to have some
Stable parents.
Yes, you got to have a good mom, and you got to have a good. It's sad that I have to.
It sounds so basic, huh?
But it's sad that you have to clarify that. Yes,
No,
you
I
have to have
know.
a good one and a
Yeah.
bad one. You do, and luckily, by the grace of God, I had those. They're awesome. They still are. Like, I live next door to them. I see them
Oh,
every
really?
day. Yeah. They called me yesterday to help put the microwave in, and I was like, this ain't going to fit, guys. And they're like, it's going to fit. I'm like, all right. It didn't fit. But we got it in there after a while.
Squeezed her in.
But they're always there for you, and we're always there for them. Family's huge. I got 5 brothers and sisters, like 16, 17 nieces and nephews. I got great, what are they called? Great nieces?
I guess.
And I try to get them to
don't
call
think
me
I have
Danny
any.
the Great, but they didn't go for that.
That's
and
awesome.
That's fine.
Actually. I don't have any great nieces, man.
But family, super important, and you definitely learn, and you still learn morality as you go through life.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a little combo of both for
It
me.
is.
And we talked about morality too, you and I, which is interesting. It can come from outside forces like comic books.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Morality.
Right and wrong, black and white. But
Yeah.
then you got them issues where there's the gray. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, ooh, well, Spider-Man doesn't know if he wants to help Norman Osborn or not because he's a bad guy, but he's his friend.
Yeah,
so what do we do?
complexities
Yeah,
of-
exactly.
yeah.
And then as a little kid reading that, you're like, damn, there's some gray in this too.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of open your way up for that.
Yeah, I was watching this thing with Congress the other day where
Yeah,
they were
of course.
interviewing Google, and they kept forcing the it was really irritating because it was like asking a question, and then he was trying to give the answer. It's like, I want a yes or no answer, and I was irritated because I was going, this is not a yes. There is
Right.
no, just what you said. This is, and the guy kept trying to tell
What's your
him.
favorite color? Yes or no only.
Yeah, he was trying to explain, well, that answer to actually give you the answer, I have to know some things.
Right.
It's more complex, and they shut him down.
But they
yes
want
or
to
no,
simplify
yes or no,
it
and
to
it's
where they can
really,
get what they. Ugh, it's so gross.
Yeah, and I was like, man, he's basically showing this is life, man. Most things in life are not just yes or no answers. So many complexities.
And when they are yes or no answers, they're still not easy. Cause
No, they're
it's
not.
like, well,
Well, especially when you have, especially when it comes to moral questions where to do the right thing, a wrong thing has to happen. I mean, and that does happen in
yeah.
life sometimes. I mean, where you're like, there's really no good answer here.
or at least the easy answer.
Yeah.
There might be the right answer. There's always the right answer, but that bit ain't always going to be easy.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you think about, I mean, morality, yeah, doing right and wrong, but what about when right, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, what about when right means to stand up against
Oh, hell yeah.
How you feel about that?
Oh, like vigilante shit? I'm down.
I mean, like,
Already got the costume.
or being a voice like against an injustice.
Oh, yeah.
You're okay
definitely.
with standing
yeah.
up?
Oh, you got to.
Yeah.
Like,
Because some people aren't okay with that.
and that's fine. That's them. Leave it to those who will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Do you believe someone always will? Do you think that's just in somebody somewhere? There's always going to be somebody that stands up against injustice.
I would say not all the time, but if
Eventually.
there is a void, there will be, and then that person
believe
will
that
be the strongest voice. You know what I
Actually,
mean?
yeah, you really nailed
And that
it.
gives me hope because
Me
that there
too.
will be. You know,
I've always believed that, and it's been said, but a lot of people have said it, that, you know, history will bring about the person to do the thing that needs to be done somehow.
the environment and the situation will always produce
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. I
Maybe
think,
what you need or what you don't need, but it's going to make something.
and with
And-
enough time, I really do believe that that everything leans eventually towards justice.
Yeah, it's a pendulum. You
Yeah.
got shit, and then you got awesome, and then
Yeah.
you got that in between.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, those are all just good answers, dude.
Thank you, and no math.
No math, dude. I'm going to keep math out of the fishbowl. Nobody wants
I
to
was
do
told
it,
there'd be no
man.
math.
Unless I get a math scientist. Is that what they're called? Math scientists? Math?
Oh, hey, did you hear about the constipated mathematician?
No.
He had to work it out with a pencil.
Oh, golly, dude.
Sorry.
Nasty.
Best I got.
Nasty. Dude, this has been fun. It has.
You should come
honestly.
play D&D sometime.
Yeah, you messaged me about that, and I was like, I don't
want to
know
get
anything
That's
about D&D.
perfect. Neither do any of the people I play with.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, we were talking through Messenger, I was like, I remember watching the D&D, Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
Yeah.
And I do know about Dungeons and Dragons. It's not like I'm alien to it, but I don't know. I've never played.
Well, at first, it's like filling out tax forms because
Yeah.
it's like, what is this? I don't understand. But once you get playing, it's fun. But it's all about role playing and being however you want to do it. I'm trying to get together like a dream team of like really good role players and stuff, and I want to one day record it and stuff.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
But it's just fun. And that's
Do
why
people
we play.
do that? Record their Dungeons and Dragons? Really?
See, what I want to do is like record and have video of like the
board or whatever.
board,
I
and
said
then-
there's a board, like I know if there's a board.
yeah.
Is
like
there?
the-
Okay.
Yeah, I made the board and the
Dude, I don't
train
know.
and all that kind of stuff. But I want to do like little animations, like of their faces, kind
Yeah.
of like their character kind of talking.
That fits right into the things you do and all your interests. It's almost like all of it kind of in one.
Except for technology. I'm super terrible at that. I can work my phone okay, but that's about it. Everything past that's like, I'm like Space Out. Or what's that one where they banging on the...
So you don't do a lot of digital art then? Okay.
Not because I don't like it. I think it's awesome. I can't do it. Like,
It's just
I'm pretty good at picking up an art technique or medium and, being proficient in it.
Sure.
Except for digital, man, because it's just like...
whole nother world. Huh?
I can't process. Like, I freak out. Like, I just can't do it.
See, I think I learned how to do it out of necessity, and it was mostly just fiscal necessity. Like I needed to survive.
And I always feel like I'm way behind, so I'd have to learn like DOS or some shit before I could like learn now.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what any of that is. Like,
But Morgan seems like she does a little
Thank
bit,
God,
like touch up
yes.
stuff or like adds little elements or flourish.
and then she's the same as me. She never did it, but she's like jumped in and taught
Sure.
herself how to do it. And I'm like, well, cool. Now can you do that for me?
It is kind of nuts how now I think about it. You can really learn online anything you want. I mean,
Anything.
I always think that about kids in design. I'm taking design, or so who say, "Well, I want to be a designer." I always am like, if you really want to be one, you could really start educating yourself now. If you're in high school, man, you can like anything. Oh yeah, dude.
Like I remember going to we were talking about going to comic conventions a long time ago, like 10 years ago, and they'd ask, they said, "Well, how's your image portfolio coming together?" Like, well, good. Like, you'd cut out pictures of an airplane from a magazine and put it in your folder for A. That's your airplanes. You need to know what an
Yeah.
airplane looks like. You open up that tangible photo or folder of actual photos and you draw that airplane.
Yeah.
Now it's like Google, and it's awesome.
Yeah, changed everything.
Yeah,
man.
and to me, that's my extent of technology. I'm not a like Skynet. It's gonna happen. Robot overlords.
Dude, I
just
saw
get
that
ready for
robot the other day. It was
Which one? They're all
of
terrifying.
The newest
Boston
one that
Dynamics?
Boston Dynamics
Ugh.
put out. That thing is like totally untethered, man. It was doing
Oh,
freaking
yeah, it was like-
parkour.
yes.
I was like, wow,
Terrifyingly
dude. It was
amazing.
agile.
I know.
It was
Super
way
creepy.
more agile than the last one. And I was like, man, this
Then they
is
got
like
that big dog, that like cheetah looking thing.
it's turning into like first it was like once every 2 years, and it was like every year, and then now it's like every
exponential growth or whatever.
The robots are just becoming more and more. That one was.
As soon as they
It didn't
start
have the
sounding
big
like Arnold.
battery pack anymore, and
Yep.
it was like the articulation was just totally different. I was like, man, I don't know. This thing's like free moving.
I know.
It's kind of crazy.
I hope they like art.
Yeah, and I hope so too. Well, that's happening too. I mean, that's the other.
Oh, and then you
thing
saw
is-
that AI made them people look like.
Yeah, the
that-
other day those portraits that
I read that, but
they look like photos.
my little lizard brain couldn't figure out what the article was telling me, so I just stopped reading it. But I was like, well, that's scary, probably.
Yeah, it was interesting. I read most of that article. It's like most articles, if it's too long, or you have so much
Or not
time to
enough
devote.
pictures.
That one was about pictures, which was interesting. I was like, man, these aren't real people.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, I don't know.
Oh, and
about
now there's that
looks like Karen.
a movie. There's a movie that's been written and directed by an AI.
Huh.
And then there's also art now out there that AI, poetry,
Right.
love songs. I mean, they just feed it everything from our history.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
it says,
they're
well,
like-
what's the perfect love song? And it'll write a song. And I'm like, okay, we're heading to a point that we just can't really fathom yet.
Right.
Except in science fiction movies.
That's what
I
I'm saying. We need a culling, man. I'm hoping for a solar flare. You hear me? Because solar flare gonna knock out all technology. People like me who don't know technology might be all right.
Do you know Jason Folks?
Yeah.
Have you read? Did you read his book, Flare? It's called Flare.
I haven't read it.
You should read it. It's actually good, man.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot. I'm like, oh shit, we got an X Flare coming up. He's like, I know. I'm like, bring it on.
I liked that book.
It takes place in Brimstone.
Yeah, it's actually
Sulphur?
it's here, and that's what I liked about it. I was at first it doesn't land there, but where it starts is the Houston area, and he travels down I-10,
right.
Sulphur, Lake Charles. I mean, and when things are falling apart, he's using local spaces. I'm like, oh yeah, I know these places.
Yeah.
It was easy. I liked it because I've never really read a book in a place I live. Most of them are set in these bigger cities that I've never been, and don't have a working knowledge of. And this, I was like, oh, I know that place. I know that street. I know the overpass he's talking about. It was really cool. Just for that alone was enough, but I thought it was well written. He did his research.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like, I like that kind of stuff because I see it as like preparation, kind of like bring it on. Let's do this thing.
You ready to try some
people
stuff.
are like, 90% of Americans will die in like the first year, but it's like OTSS, son.
So do y'all like to watch that kind of stuff, like that survival shows and stuff like that?
I like, what's his name? Bear Grylls, Survivor Man. I can go into the woods with a cup and a knife for 3 days.
You're good to go, bro.
Snares, traps.
Those shows are. Me and my wife are the same way. We love that stuff. We would. Our favorite guy. We were actually going to take his class a couple of years ago up in Arizona. Cody Lundeen.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's he's not barefoot guy.
Yeah. I really like him. I've read a few of his books, and I just like his attitude. And, I guess say something else. He got kicked off of that show. He had a dispute with the other co-star, and it all went down kind of a shitty way, I thought, and the way it was handled. And what I at first I was like, well, what's he going to do next? I was like, oh yeah, well, I love watching Cody. But then,
he just opened up his own school or something?
Well, he already had one. And you know what, man? He just kind of, at least from what I can tell, he just went back to doing himself and doing his own thing,
he
bro.
Seemed kind of like
this
he didn't really want to be there.
Yeah, F this Hollywood world. Almost
exactly.
like I got the impression he kind of almost had some self-analysis. It's like, man, maybe I ain't supposed to, you know what? F this. I didn't get into this for this. I'm going to go back to doing my school.
Right.
And so I still would like to do it. I don't know how well I do, but I really would like to do that school.
See,
like 6 days or something.
The longest I've been in the woods by myself with just a cup and a knife was 3 days. I probably could have gone longer, but it wasn't too hard. It was hard and it was gross, but I was just kind of got bored, I guess.
I get you.
But if I'm gonna be out there for a while, like I want to make.
Have something to do, build some of those.
Oh man, you seen those guys?
Yeah, they go out there and they build everything out of the clay in the ground. I love that stuff, man.
I'd watch those for hours.
They build those tiles and hot tubs in the ground.
Dude, it's crazy. And then they put their fish in there and they got food storage.
Kind of crazy, huh?
It's just like these two little Asian Filipino guys just going to town.
Blows my mind. You know what? There's a guy. Man, I'm getting excited about this. This is a subject I love. We should have started with this. There's a guy online, and you may have seen him. He has it's forest cooking.
He's got that awesome knife.
Yeah.
And he cooks everything on that stone.
I can sit there for hours. Chopping he doesn't say a word. Michelle was like, yeah, it's really relaxing. I said, yeah, and it's so just, I don't know. I like it because it's not fluffed up, I guess.
Right.
And I've read some comments where were like, wow, the cinematic, you're over dramatizing cooking. I'm like, whatever, dude.
God.
This guy's out there forging his own. Shut up, right. Just watch it. He's really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff it's just I love being outdoors. Like I grew up in the woods, which led to my whole sheltered life or whatever. My parents gave me a machete when I was 6.
That was it.
And I was like, that was it. Like went out into the woods. I was the 6th kid, so it was just kind of like whatever happens to him happens. So
yeah.
Which worked out well.
If he gets lost, we got other ones.
Exactly.
We've already done it.
Right. We already put the work into the other ones. I was kind of like the little feral kid. But I had the machete. I was out in the woods all the time. And now, try to bring Ruby out as much as we can in the same woods because I live next to him. So it's like.
You know what? Just thought of an awesome Halloween costume for your daughter.
Which one?
The feral kid from Mad Max with the metal boomerang.
Oh, yeah, with the big glove and the crazy hair.
Yeah, she's the perfect size, man. Wouldn't that be cool? You could go as Max, bro.
Oh, yeah, that's when he had his awesome 80s action mullet, too.
Yes, dude. That would be so cool, man. I love that little feral kid.
Morgan could be Tina Turner. I think that was a different one.
That was Thunderdome.
Yeah,
Thunderdome,
two men
Tina Turner.
That one.
Yeah, Mad Max, like Road Warrior. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Oh,
The second one.
Wait, is that what you had a crew cut?
Yeah, that was one where he was trying to get the water tanker. The fuel tanker. No, the very first one's called Mad Max.
Right. That's the one where even on sand, when he'd peel out, it would make that screeching noise. Like,
that was the first old
sand.
one.
Yeah. He's like super Australian or whatever.
Yeah, he's young in that one, man.
Yeah.
The Road Warrior's the one that had Lord Humongous, had the metal mask.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I've seen the Tina. I'm more familiar with the Tina Turner.
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Master Blaster.
Yeah, dude. Oh yeah, I used to know a guy who looked just like Master, and I would like stare at that dude.
Was that the one on top?
Yeah, and I was like, dude, Master
like
Blaster.
Marty B.
Remember
Marty B?
Yeah, man. Did you have him?
I did.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
That's where I saw your sister's logo.
Oh yeah, I know she had
spaghetti wine, dude. Isn't that crazy? That's
shoved in there
all those years, man.
I haven't thought about that since that day when I saw it at her art opening or whatever.
Oh, dude, if I'm being honest, I remember almost idolizing. I mean, she does not know this at all, but almost going like, "Who are you? You did that logo. Oh, I can do logos." Like I was like really, I had never done one, and I was just like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to.
Well, there you go.
Do that,
See, people touching
small, and she
lives.
doesn't even know her spaghetti wine.
Her spaghetti wine.
Yeah. Well, dude, this has been freaking fun.
It has. You should come in the woods, play some D&D.
People go out there with a cup and a knife,
there you go, man.
Just hang out there and eat up with bugs.
Oh yeah, this is the time to do it though.
Yeah, that's true.
Less mosquitoes.
I do love the woods, but and if we have more time, I'd tell you a story, but I'm gonna save it for another day. But me and Michelle had a battle with some mosquitoes one time, and I was like, dude, I don't know if I'm ever going out this far again at this time of year.
Oh, and they like that O positive too,
bruh.
That's their favorite.
They was eating me up.
They like my ankles.
Yeah, well, dude, I appreciate y'all taking the time. Well, and your wife too. It was nice to get to meet your daughter and just all y'all together. Y'all are a good family.
We like each other.
Y'all learned how to be a family from a family, and now you got a good family.
Exactly, and we hope it's a circle of life kind of thing.
Yeah, dude, nuclear family.
There we go.
Minus the nuclear powers.
The radiation.
Yeah.
I know. I used to put spiders in the microwave when I was little and get them to try to bite me, but they never survived the process, so I never found the right spider, is what I always thought.
No, I heard a podcaster the other day say that. He said, what happened, man? Like, when we were kids, radioactive stuff gave you powers. He said, now it just gives you cancer.
Right.
So
well, look at Deadpool.
It's true. It teaches us that in the comics. Like, oh, well, I mean, some radioactive stuff, you're going to get some cool powers.
One other thing that cartoons lied to me about was growing up, I thought you could eat the pie and plate. Like the little,
because they just pick it up and take a bite.
Yeah, and they take a bite of the whole thing. And then I was like, that's crazy.
You don't eat the aluminum.
No, you don't. It's not good for you.
Don't even want
and
that
also,
on your
they're
teeth.
called a chest of drawers, not Chester.
Chester drawers.
I thought Chester invented them.
Did the same. Let me tell you something else. I had one with my dad because he was a carpenter. I used to think his saw was called, how did he say? A radio alarm saw. And it's a radial and arm saw. I was an adult before I knew that. I went to go buy one, and I went to the hardware store because I knew what it was. And
radio alarm
do you
saw?
have a radio alarm saw? And I didn't ask anybody, thank goodness. But I started looking around for it, and I was like,
"Hey, do you have one of these?"
I was like looking for it, and I went to there. I was like, oh, that makes more sense. Radial and arm.
I'm glad I didn't tell anybody about that.
Do you have a radio alarm saw? I was like, what in the hell does that even mean? I mean, I'm serious. It's of course in private internal.
Right.
Having that own internal shame.
Or like the
I'm
first
ashamed.
time you go to write it, and you're like, well, that obviously is not right.
I mean, my mind was like, God, what does this even mean? Why would it be called a radio alarm saw? I never did get that, but yeah, internally I had that little dialogue with myself. It was like all the shame and embarrassment. Yeah. So stupid.
Everyone's going to laugh at you.
Now everybody knows.
Right, exactly. Now it is out for the world.
Out in the wild.
And I love you just